And
Teeth.
we're going.
Okay. That's our new thing now. Who's doing the recap this time?
I made
with
some
pictures.
notes.
Oh, okay.
I have vague notes as well, but they're very
I
vague.
Well-
Okay, I have like 2 pages.
This will be interesting then. Go for it.
All right. What's up, bees? So we
Oh, you're going word for word. Okay, cool.
So we had some downtime before we had to go to the shrine. So we're just like gonna do some shit. We Alsana loved terrorizing the townspeople. Went to Sorren for a little bit. Bought some stuff. Bought some beads. Kane decided to make a bead and braid into his mohawk, which really grinds Alsana's gears a little bit.
It rattles her beads.
It rattles her beads a little bit. And then on the 29th of the first month, we head to the shrine, and Kate and Alaris go in for the shrine, both getting physical. So we get a couple things, and Alsana's like, you owe us a little bit, motherfucker, because of the first fight still. The boys get their level up, and then we return to Walton on the 2nd of Rainfall. Alsana goes to see her apothecary and the apprentice friend, has a nice little conversation. On the 4th of is where the chaos fucking comes, because it's the Fool's Turn feast.
And that was the rest of the session, and now we're in this session.
Chaos, eggs, and lightning. Also a few costumes. And now it is the 5th of Rainfall, 3.5 weeks until the next full moon.
Also plant growth. Lars's front line.
Oh, fucking plant growth.
Yeah. There's still snow on the ground, but you got scraggly plants poking up and desperately wondering what the hell is happening. As far as plants can wonder anything.
It's equivalent to like your alarm going off at 3 in the morning.
Yeah, and it's like, hold on, this was set for 7. What happened?
It was daylight savings 4 times that day, and no one knew why.
No, it was all a prank. It was all literally a prank. So, you guys have come up with a plan, last I heard, for the bulk of the party to head up the river, kind of around a little bit of the woods, into Sorren, spend a night or two, as Alsana would like to visit the shrine once more, trekking into the woods, couple of days, maybe a little bit less on the broom, collecting some water, and heading up to Sorren individually. So,
And basically letting the party look out for information on where we're going next, well in Sorren, and while she's gone.
Yep. So, assuming that is still the plan, the 5th dawns maybe just a little bit on the warmer side of average temperatures. Still cold. Things aren't melting in a great deluge, but you're noticing day by day, bit by bit, things are turning towards the spring and out of the winter. You do see, however, some gray clouds gathering in the sky around you and above you. Nothing threatening just yet. It's a fairly light gray, but there's not much sunlight peeking through, even early on. Yep. You call up your weather report. Mostly you see clouds, though at one point the clouds, the little icon above your hand, drips down bits of moisture, kind of this mixture of raindrop icons and snowflake icons. So you get the impression that, yeah, there could be a little precipitation later on. It doesn't cover the entire 24-hour cycle that you're checking out.
Do umbrellas exist?
Umbrellas, in terms of an actual like collapsible cover,
Not even
per se.
just something equivalent to that. Also,
Oh yeah.
take with her.
Mostly it's like you have weatherproof or relatively weatherproof cloaks. Wool is especially liked for the winter months for its heat retention, and also because it is maybe not completely waterproof, but fairly so.
It rolls off well enough.
Yeah. It'll do you the trick. sometimes in wetter climates you end up with something that's been oiled. Actually, probably Kane would be fairly familiar with that as a concept because they're not uncommon on boats and among people who work on boats due to the just the natural hazards of that kind of job and that kind of environment. Um, Other than that, it's you don't really have umbrellas per se. There might be the equivalent of parasols amongst some of like the wealthier people, the larger cities. A little bit more intended for again keeping the sun off than heavy moisture, but yeah, your best bet hooded cloak
All right.
or some kind of poncho.
Is it assumed we have stuff like that, or could we have picked that up
I
before we head out?
I generally assume that you guys are geared up for travel in this kind of weather.
All right.
You have the heavier boots, you've got your mittens and scarves, your coats, whatever it would take, or whatever your character would have for this kind of situation.
All right.
I imagine Kane has very good waterproof everything.
Probably. Yeah, probably Kane's boots are oiled, his any kind of whether it's a full cloak or shoulder cape or hood or just whatever, that's probably got an oil coating on it. Probably also wool for warmth. Calda, you've probably got plenty of coziness. Alaris, you probably have a few knitted items.
Probably.
As they're getting up in the morning, Kane's just gonna make sure it's like, anyone need anything or
Not particularly.
any
Good in town.
alright, no scarves, no mittens, no jackets.
I've got my own.
Maybe a scarf.
Go to pull a scarf out.
Okay.
Bag.
All right, 11. I believe that's fairly solidly average. Let me just double check in case.
I can click
I've got it.
one.
You get the
Okay.
standard. So yeah, you get a scarf. It's kind of this brown wool, regular knit, kind of the average length. It does the
Slightly
trick.
of
It does what you
coffee.
want.
Kinda just throws it at Alaris around the neck and just wrap it up his face.
Kane just like pulls it out and looks at it and it's like, full puff. That's weird.
Make sure you speak up a little bit, Devin, even as Alsana. You do tend to go soft in these.
Sorry.
Yep, thank you.
I'll put the mic just a bit closer.
That helps
Appreciate it.
a great deal. All right. And with the morning come, you get another breakfast in the inn. Possibly your last one for a while, unless you return here for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
And then, nice and early in the day, you're free to start off. Take leave in two different directions, I presume.
Indeed.
Bulk of the group going mostly east, vaguely north along that road. Alsana more directly eastward into the wood.
Alsana will just stop by the graveyard once more and just grab one more lamp vine sprout.
Okay, you do so. Excuse me.
And Druid craft it to give it a bit of a glow.
All right. And you know from experience, these glows last roughly 24 hours. It can give or take a little bit, starts to fade a bit towards the end, but
Right.
you know you've got about a day of light out of it. All right, any parting words, anything of the sort, or you just head off?
Well,
Just
if you
look at Alsana.
don't
Probably
see
just
me
head off.
in a while, then maybe I'm
Actually,
dead.
yeah, part words to the wife.
Yeah, try not to get killed.
Yeah.
I can
You
only
stay
try.
safe. Still stay safe, Falsana.
Is that genuine concern I'm hearing?
I won't lie, yes.
Huh. Weird. You as well then. She floats off.
All right. And in the meantime, Alaris, or maybe just before Alaris, you did say goodbye to Aurora and Gage. You got lots of hugs, you got kisses, you got admonishments to keep well, to make sure that you stayed warm, stayed safe, and that you're going to come back. I think you're on push to talk, John, so if you're saying anything, we cannot hear you.
Okay. Okay.
All right. With that, the party splits. Heads off a couple different directions. For the crew on the road, you spend about most of the day, several hours, trekking kind of up along the line of the forest between that and the river. It does kind of have to hook around more eastward after a while. You're able to make a fairly easy pace, though the some of the recent snowfall does kind of make you lift your legs and trudge a bit more through some of the drifts. So it's, despite the relative nearness, it is still a taxing journey physically. But you are all capable. You soldier through. You take a little bit of a break around midday, have a quick bite to eat, chance to rest, push onward. Somewhere around mid-afternoon is when the clouds start to open up, and for the space of half an hour, 45 minutes, there is this unpleasant mixture of something that's trying to be snow but is verging on sleet. You guys can try to push through, or you can huddle up under some shelter that you might find along the way, perhaps on the edge of the forest.
Kane is not happy with current weather.
Yeah, it's not happy weather in general.
So just like get up close to the other two and be like, do people actually continue to move this kind of stuff?
Some do, but I really don't think it's ideal if we do. It may even slow us down or get us tired before we actually finish off.
All right, yeah, let's look for a bit of cover.
Yeah, it's not terribly hard to find, even if it's just huddling underneath the some of the broader branches. There aren't any leaves up there to catch much, but if you can get past the scragglier edges of the wood, where it's probably recently expanded and hasn't been cut back for all that time, you can find some spaces that are thick enough with just crisscrossing branches above that it keeps the worst of it off you, and you're able to huddle up, make a little bit of a shelter, perhaps pull some canvas out from one of the tents and drape it over you, the lot of you. It's not the most pleasant or comfortable wait for the precipitation to pass, but you get through it all right. After it seems to have cleared up enough to go on, shake off the accumulation of moisture and ice, stamp some feeling back into your toes, and head back onto the road. Thanks to the delay, you do get to Sorren just a little bit later than expected, into the evening.
Kane's mohawk is probably as solid as it's ever been frozen in place.
It may very well be.
All right, let's find an inn or something, get warmed up.
Okay. As you go towards Sorren, you see in front of you, first of all, you see the kind of the defensive wall around the town. You see some rooftops peeking over it, a larger building further in. And the wall itself is, for the bulk of it, the height of it, it's what seems to be fairly thick construction of wood, with a little kind of a guardhouse jutting out over the gate that you're approaching, but the base itself seems to be made of stone, though it is a little bit caked with some snow, so it's not very, very clear, but you can suss out some of the details nonetheless. The gate that you are coming through is, you get up to it and you see a sign next to it and it just says River Gate. For fairly obvious reasons, as the banks are not terribly far off. The map is, I'm afraid, a little misleading where I put the little house. But the river isn't that far off. There's a short road between what you see in the distance is a small cluster of outside buildings and some docks jutting out into the river itself. And then you go through the gate. There don't seem to be very many guards on. It's like just a couple who just kind of wave you through. Not much curiosity or interest. They're mostly, one's blowing on his hands and rubbing them. The other one is just kind of occasionally stamping his feet and shifting in place and looking around. The gates are just wide open for the day. Not very many people are actually passing through. It is fairly quiet inside. Still people walking around doing their business, but it's not exactly bustling as you enter this first thoroughfare. And on the sides, you see actually a fair number of small merchants and inns and just plain pubs or taverns apart from the inns. Seems to be a couple of stables here and there. Also fairly quiet. Let's see. Yeah, that's kind of about it in this first section.
Kind of just look at the nearest reasonable shelter and kind of, should we get beds ready?
Yeah, I'd rather get to bed early instead of staying in this for longer than I have to. Come on, before any of us catch a cold.
All right. Just head inside.
All right. The first shelter that you come across seems to be looking more for something that seems like it has rooms available. Some of the buildings are built with a couple of stories, with the top one jutting out over the street slightly in that architectural style. And the first one that you come across is something called the Hammered Haddock. It, of course, has its sign out front seems to be something like a tankard with a fish leaping out of it. You head inside. It's not crowded, but given that it has progressed to evening, there are a few people in there. A few glances thrown your way, but not over much interest, it seems. You head over to the counter, currently manned by a stocky-looking dwarven fellow who looks up from a ledger-like book briefly and adjusts a pair of small reading spectacles, kind of pulling them up on top of his head. Says, "Hey, visitors, you're traveling in this weather?"
Unfortunately, but yeah.
Ugh, braver lot than many. I suppose it wasn't so bad, but still. Not good weather out there, not good. I'll go on.
But, this ends a happy sight to see in exchange.
Well, we got a nice
Yes.
roaring fire and good ale. So what can I get you?
Hard cut to Alsana in the forest doing thing in the rain with the broom.
Yep, hard cut to Alsana in the forest, indeed. That was your first day, was flying, making a pretty good distance, considering the speed of your broom compared to the speed of somebody trudging through snow. You're actually able to get a good distance further in that first go than the entire party did moving as a group. You're still not quite to the shrine on that first night, but you're fairly close.
She's enjoying
And you
the
think
weather.
you could, yeah, you think you get to it like halfway through the next day. So yes, apparently you're happy.
She just kind of like puts her hand out and kind of like lets something drip on it. It's like, I wish it would stay, but spring is nice too, I guess. I wish things would grow in the winter, though.
I just realized I don't have any music going. Let's see.
She's gonna just, if she can she stop and, as she's going, just kind of keep quiet, give a listen. If she hears much.
Sure thing. I'll say that for the rest of the group, you're able to get room for the night and a hot meal. And we'll go ahead and cut back to you if there's anything specific you'd like to do with the end of the day in the morning. After we take care of Alsana.
I didn't mean to cut you guys off. I just wanted to throw in that as a joke, but I guess it worked as a transition.
Works either way.
Yeah. Yeah, you guys, we don't need to go through all the minutiae of we'd like rooms for the night, and we'd like meals, and what would you like to eat, and all that. So
you get oatmeal, lots of oatmeal.
Hey, it's a good hearty stick. It's a good hearty stick to your ribs kind of food. Okay.
No one's complaining here. Cold as shit outside.
Yep.
It's that really like, is that kind of bacon that like you have to pry off the pan. The good bacon.
Yep.
Anyways.
I'm just thinking about bacon.
All right, you want to go ahead and give a look around? Is there anything in particular you are looking for?
He's gonna strike up conversation at the bar with the barkeep. Be like, we've been around here from the south. What's interesting? What's new? What's going on?
You guys want to start a fight?
Well, yes, but we can do that later.
Oh, God. Yeah, if you start a fight, just be warned it's all theater with a mind at that point.
Go ahead.
The barkeep, who introduces himself as Hattie.
Of course he does.
Yeah. It's, old family name. It's, run for generations, and, well, made sense to name the inn after that, and after myself, and after a bit of the trade that comes through. Anyways, new in town, new around. Not very much. I mean, it's a slow season. Again, weather being what it is, and nobody wanted to be out, and the river freezing up, and, well, come the thaw, that's when we'll start seeing more activity. For the time being, though, can't really complain. I suppose, well, I suppose there's just, like, local gossip. Not sure you'd be much interested in that, though. Very few people really care about Mrs. Smith and the state of her bunions.
Well, you never know. Could be some way I can help out.
Lad, don't make that offer. Trust me. Just don't.
See, that's the information I needed. What about the river? Not much activity this time of year, I suppose.
Well, obviously not. I mean, you get some fools who go out and chip holes in the ice and fish, but other than that, no real traffic once it starts getting a little dangerous with flows of ice and just chunks floating by, and when it freezes over completely, not much moving anything down it that's worth the time or effort.
Makes sense. Sorry, like I said, never had to deal with cold weather before. But how late do you usually have to wait until it opens up?
Oh, could be as early as at the end of the month if it gets warm quickly. Sometimes we get snow even as late, though, as first week of season, though. That's not very often. It's usually better when it's not that far in.
Yeah, and I imagine you guys prefer it as well when it's a bit more consistent day.
Well, yeah, us, the farmers, everybody who makes their trade in any way that could be affected by the weather, which is just about bloody everyone except for the ones pushing papers and sticking their nose in parchment up the library's way.
Huh, is that a big industry here, the library?
Big? Probably no. I mean, it depends on how you define big. We have one. We got some scribes, some people who make their living either teaching literacy or maybe reading or transcribing or whatever, letters or wills or what have you for those who never took such a path. It's a job. It's a job for them. We've got people who make paper, we've got people who make their ink, got chandlers, we've got pretty much anything it takes to run a town on top of it.
I mean, better to have it than not, I suppose.
Well, yeah.
If you don't mind me asking, there's something about a lake to the south. What's that?
Lake.
What's that about? Long Lake, I think it's called. Past the Sorren.
Oh, Long Lake. Yeah. Not much of interest to any sort of tradesman, to be honest. It's not really accessible by any routes except overland, and inefficient if you want to be about that. I mean, there's not much. Good fish, I suppose.
Better than
Occasionally.
cracking a hole through the ice, I suppose. Better than cracking a hole through the ice.
Oh no, apparently they never really freeze over. Maybe a little
Really?
on the edges. Well, yeah. Well, I guess that might be interesting, just for the oddity, but apparently that one's all salt.
A salt lake in the middle of the...
Yeah.
Interesting.
Probably fed by some underground spring or other.
Must
Don't
be.
ask me. I'm not a naturey, knowledgey type. You could go ask up at the library if you're really curious, but to my knowledge, not much interest. And yes, having gained that information.
There, Alsana.
Mhm.
What? No, the player just coughed. I don't know.
Sorry, gaining that information.
Yep, having gotten that information, is there anything else you're really after? We did kind of skip to Devon and then skip back and then...
Well, just kind of trying to get the lay of the town, but through small talk, it doesn't need to be narrated.
Yeah, you can more or less get that, and I'll let you know what it is as you guys go on and into the next day, okay? Because I'm assuming that Kane would kind of share any generalized information with the others.
Of course.
So, back to Alsana. Presumably you've set up a basic camp for the night.
Yep, just the kind of tent and all that. Small
Yep.
fire.
Yep, you've got the one tent, they've got the other. Night being what it is in this time of year, it is chilly, but the fire does help this time.
She can hold fire in her hands.
Yes, you're able to keep fairly warm. Part of the problem you had before was that you were away from any type of fire setup or anything like that, and so it just made things a little bit unnecessarily difficult. However, this time you are setting up a proper campsite, proper fire. Again, it's still not quite as nice as it would be with like another tent nearby, another person in the tent, even if at different times. But you get through the night just fine.
Alright. Does she notice any wildlife in the time she's there? Returning or otherwise?
A given time of year, not very much, though you did notice that the very few birds that were there, even at the start of last month, they seem to be kind of going further into the forest, and again, that oppressive pall of shadow that had laid over the bulk of it when you first set foot in there, it seems to have completely dissipated. You've got the normal darkness of night. You've got the normal gray shadow of a completely cloud-blanketed sky. But it's not that strange, choking dimming of all light.
Right. She's like, hold on a second. Can she flag down some birds? She just kind of sat there in the evening, setting up camp.
Possibly. Let's go ahead and see. Yeah, there's a couple birds in the area. Yeah. You can flag down, let's say a robin that's turned up just a little too early and is now sticking around because it's too much effort to fly back south and then fly back north and hold
Red
up a
one
bit of...
over there.
You speak? You speak to me?
Yes.
Dark one.
She,
Big dark one.
that I am.
Alright.
She goes into her pockets and crushes up some crackers into breadcrumbs and holds them out.
Ah, food! And it flutters over and starts pecking them out of your fingers.
This thing's great already. Are there many of you around right now?
Many. And he bobs his head. Many. And continues pecking.
Have you noticed it's got nicer here?
Cold.
But not as dark.
Looks up at the sky, dimming towards nighttime. Dark. Sleep soon. Peck, peck, peck. Dark and light and dark and light and dark and light and dark and light.
Have you seen any smaller than me, bigger than you, big eyes? They go who?
Peck, peck, peck. Looks up. There's just this sound that's a question mark and then goes back to peck, peck, pecking.
Do you know what an owl is? Does the word
Uh,
translate?
Given that the speak with animals is translating literally everything, yes.
Okay.
Looks up. Silent. Shadow. Night.
Yes. Have you seen any around here recently? Last few days?
It's a little tricky, but I'll say that since it's a translation, the concept of days does translate somehow. And kind of the let me see. Has the bird seen any recently? Nope.
Oh well.
Peck, 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 and all the crumbs are gone.
Alright.
Looks above you. More? More food?
Just a little bit more. She goes, she kind of like holds it, like kind of like lightly takes off a piece of crackers and just kind of like holds it up for him to take.
He grabs it. Kind of holds it in his beak. Are done?
Sorry, repeat yourself then, dear.
Are done?
That's all for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Up into the tree.
It was a nice conversation at least. Just seeing if there's anything she can do for fun. Oh, I guess just from this point forward, because I just now thought of it, she will also, I think I mentioned it before, keep an eye out for if by any chance there's any plant she notices that might be fun.
The snow is starting to melt, deplete, get a little drippy overall with the slightly warmer temperatures. However, it's still too early for even the earliest snowdrops and crocuses to start breaching the surface of it.
Okay.
Soon, probably, but not quite yet.
case, she'll just, assuming night goes by without much.
Yep.
She'll continue on and just keep an eye out. Any plants or animals that catch her attention.
Okay. Again, still no plants of real note. Trees are always there, but nothing of great interest or nothing really unusual.
Are maple trees a thing in this area?
Maple trees. Good question. There is a possibility, I'm going to say, just for the mixture of these
'Cause
particular
it's pretty
forests.
northern.
Yeah, it's a little bit mixture of deciduous and coniferous in this mid band here, and the upper section as well. So possibly, go ahead and do a perception check just to see if you get lucky. Yeah, 17 plus your d4. Yeah, 4. 21. Yeah, I'll say that as you're scooting along, it's a little bit hard in a way to tell one tree from another without any leaves.
Tree.
Yeah. Tree. But you probably do actually catch sight of something, and you're like, hold on. Put on the brakes. Circle
The
back.
room goes.
Yep. And you perhaps recognized it from some detail of the bark. Perhaps there was a little bit of sap that bubbled out, and you're going, wait a second, what is this? And you give it a good look over, and yeah, you did find a maple tree. I take it you have plans?
Can she tap it?
Alright, I do not know enough about maple tapping to be certain, but I think that takes a lot of time and equipment.
It does take equipment.
Like a bucket and some
takes
kind of spigot or
Takes a
something.
sprig, a hammer, and a bucket.
Alright. Have you got a bucket?
It also takes a warm tree.
Okay. I'll say that the little bit of sap bubbled out that you noticed you might be able to chip off as a chunk of ice.
All right. Can she just kind of get in there with her dagger and just kind of like work a little bit into it?
Sure, you can take a little bit of time out of your day and somehow break off a chunk of maple sap. Stick it in a jar and tuck it away.
All right. Does she know if it's got any alchemical value to it at all?
Given that I have only barely started making that whole process thing, I'll say that a maple might not be super magical. I'll say hold on that question, and I'll get back to you on it, okay?
All right, it's in
You've-
inventory.
You've got maple sap. If nothing else, I'm sure there's something you could do with it.
Alrighty.
Okay, and even with that little detour, you get to the shrine just after noon, perhaps, just after midday.
There you are again. What did I should have done before. She's going to go in. She's going to take like 3 bottles. 3 little alchemy bottles. And hover over the fountain. And
Okay.
bloop, bloop.
Okay. You now have 3 bottles of shrine water.
Can she tell from here and just like from taking it out, if the magic is keeping with it at all?
I feel like we kind of pursued this as a theory with an Arcana check before, and you got a great big maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we're gonna keep that at a great big maybe. You're still within the vicinity of the shrine, so you haven't noticed anything change with the water, but you might not notice if anything would change.
I only ask because it's been like at least a few weeks since she tried last time. Thought odd, but
Yeah. Yeah, we'll call this a little bit of an experiment. You'll just keep checking it as you travel onwards.
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
She'll
All right.
take one of the bottles and kind of put it on her little like side pouch. So
Okay.
she can kind of take a glance at it every now and then.
Sure thing. You know from the last time you went between Sorren and the shrine, it'll take you the better part of a day of travel to get up to Sorren, which means that it's taking you it's halfway through the day, a little bit more right now. It will not take you a full day of travel, but it'll take you enough hours that you've got the choice of either getting as far as you can and kind of having to camp outside the city,
Or pushing it and making it.
Or pushing it and making it very late. You also know from your time you spent in Sorren before that they do close and bar all 3 gates at sundown and then open them again at sunrise.
Does she know if there's any getting into it after sundown, or it's like...
She knows she has a broom and can fly.
Okay.
And that you don't
gonna
exactly
say.
have a bunch of really alert guards with itchy trigger fingers, so...
I meant more so, is it like she can knock on the door and someone might let her in, or it's no, doors closed, come back in the morning?
For the most part, if doors close, you might be let into a guardhouse for the night.
Okay.
But
she also has a broom, so yeah.
But she does also have a broom. So it is kind of up to her whether she wants to push it or not.
She'll push it. For fun.
Alright. Okay.
She might stop
yeah.
for like maybe just half an hour, boil some water, grab a bit of like pine needles, I assume are freely available.
Yeah.
Just make some tea.
Alright. You have a little pine needle tea. During your journey, you check the water multiple times. You can go ahead and give me an Arcana roll.
Alright.
Because you're kind of doing it by sight, holding it up to the light, rotating it around, peering inside at it, looking
Casts
through
it
it.
on herself every time she's about to give it a look.
Mhm.
That's much better.
22 plus
25.
25. Yeah. You're pretty sure that there is just this very faint, very subtle shine to the water that goes a bit beyond just a little bit of light filtering through the clouds that are still there. Oh right, of note, this would be the 6th for you. It's gotten just a little bit warmer, and I don't know if you checked your weather report in the morning.
I told you before, she generally does.
You did.
When she rolls
Okay.
over a bit.
Yep, okay. So this might change your travel plans, but you do see a span in the day, in a little bit more towards the evening, where there is some pretty heavy looking rainfall, according to the pictographs hovering over your hand.
What would she be running up against in that time if she was pushing it?
Evening, you'd be close to the edge of Sorren Wood, but not quite to Sorren.
By the time it starts?
Oh, actually, you would not be at the edge of Sorren Wood because you'd be getting in late, and this is evening time. So when it starts, you'd be about the halfway mark. Halfway between Shrine and Sorren. So, yeah, at that point, I did forget, but at that point, she would have the choice between trying to fly in some not great conditions, just in terms of light and how it is, and the rain in the eyes and so on, or bunkering down for the night there and then doing it in the morning.
Let me check something real quick.
Okay.
'Cause I think... I just need to check what she can prepare, because if she checked it in the morning, she could have prepared in the morning.
Yeah, that is true. I'll try to keep on top of that for your daily weather report, but
Yeah, I should ask about it too, though, to be fair.
yeah.
Spells, there we go. Sorry, just 1 second.
In the meantime,
Yeah, hop back to the other ones. That'll work.
yeah, let's hop back to you lot on the 6th. At
Yep.
dawn, it dawns kind of dim again. The clouds have not cleared or broken up. You do not have the foresight weather report that the druid has, especially as she is not currently with the rest of you. But just looking outside as you get your complimentary breakfast of probably oatmeal in the hammered haddock, and enjoy the low-banked fire that's present even in the morning in the fireplace. You look out the windows and, yeah, that's not the happiest looking sky you've ever seen. Sun might break later, but you see a bit of darkness on one of the horizons. However, you've got the day in Sorren before presumably Alsana comes and finds you. What would you like to do with it?
Unless anyone else has anything, I think Kane's gonna head to the library.
All right.
Calder's gonna probably buy more paper and ink.
Okay. We'll say that for the ease of moving things along, Calda, you're able to find plenty of paper and ink somewhere in the town. I'll say it'll put you back, basically, let's say about 3 silver for a full bottle of ink and, oh, what's a good packet of paper? 15 sheets of paper. You get a pretty good deal.
Alrighty, awesome.
Yep. Elaris, not sure if you have anything in mind, John, and keep in mind you're on push to talk, but if anything, you do know that your wife's parents and also her older brother and sister do live in Sorren. Don't know if you want to visit, if that's something you'd want to do without her there. It's an option. Otherwise, you are, just from a few visits over the years, you're not unfamiliar with the town. You could probably find something to do if you wanted to.
Okay.
Also,
what is the doing?
Yeah, let me give you the basic rundown of the town, as would be known by you and also learned by Kane. So pretty much everybody would be aware of this now. You know in general that it's kind of one of the major stops of the Drake Run trade route between Azora and pretty much the Maramore in the center of Mageria. The people of Sorren themselves mostly add to that trade in lumber, some woodworking from the forest. They've got a few bookbinders and papermakers who also enjoy the trade. Elaris, your elder brother, actually came through here to learn the trade, though he since has moved elsewhere, so he no longer lives in Sorren. They keep a number of river docks, stables, the taverns and inns. You kind of have that main road from the river gate that has quite a few of those, though there's more scattered throughout the town as well. There's some farmland just outside the city walls to keep it fairly sustainably fed, even without the outside trade. There's not a great deal of interest otherwise. The road next to the area right next to the Rivergate is as close as Sorren comes to any kind of entertainment district. And mostly then it's just like, hey, this tavern is hosting a bard or a minstrel or something tonight. Come listen to music and maybe dance. There is the Bright Mantle Manor, which was once the home of the ruling noble family who actually founded Sorren. The manor was donated to the town and is now a library, kind of a center of education. There's like general public meeting hall, governance type stuff that it's just kind of an important part of the town's history as well. It's got a fairly respectable collection of books, and they're free to peruse to the public, or at least to those who can read. Those who cannot read will sometimes go with inquiries to some of the librarian keepers and scribes and so forth, and if they can't answer it, they might be able to look up an answer for you. That's mostly for those who cannot do the reading themselves. And typically, once you get to the point where you want to look something up in the library, it's because you're already able to read. So they don't have to do a lot of research for people normally, but occasionally it happens. The other, I guess, location of note is something called Shrine Street, which is the source of probably several local tongue twisters. It is basically a road running through the town, lined with various temples and smaller shrines, and sometimes even just little altars to a fair number of gods. The largest one would be the Temple of Majere, which is nearly as old as the town itself. There's the Healing Hall of Mishakal, shrines of Chislev, goddess of nature, and Rayarx, god of craft. Not on Shrine Street, see why it's a tongue twister, is a fairly noticeable shrine to Shinare, which is the goddess of wealth and trade, but that's kind of set closer to the river gate. It's said to be part of the street by its nature, by kind of an honorary point, but the main crux of the people visiting it are going to be the traders passing through who want to seek a little divine favor on their journeys. For the most part, that is pretty much it of note. It's not a big city. It's a doable town. It's basically the equivalent of everything around is farmland, so this is the big place in the region, but compared to actual cities, it's kind of podunk.
Okay. So yeah, for a start, Kane's gonna be heading to the library.
All right.
So you said Aurora's parents and her sister,
Brother and sister.
brother and sister. Yeah, I guess I'll pay a visit.
All right. Do you mind if
No,
we go ahead and go with Kane to the library as he spoke up first?
Sure.
All right. Although I'm not sure if you want to play out the entire encounter with the in-laws, or if you just want to say, hey, I visit and spend a few hours there.
That's up to you if you want to just gloss over it.
Yeah, it kind of depends on if you are going to be wanting to, say, do anything of interest with them or something to them. If not, then we could probably gloss it over and I can kind of let you know the outcome afterwards.
Yeah, I'll probably just swing by, tell them, and Gage is safe and everything.
Sounds good.
Say hi.
So Kane, you head off to the library. It's not hard to find, especially if you grab somebody and be like, okay, which building is in the library? You know, it's probably that bigger, fancier looking one, kind of off on the side of town that's a little bit closer to Sorren Wood than anything else.
It has the best sealed windows.
Yeah.
Just keep the book safe.
Yep. And yeah, when I say biggest, it's got it's a 3-story house, 3-story building instead of just 1 or 2. So, living at large. You are breaking up horribly.
I was gonna say, is that anyone else? Cause
That's all of us. Yeah. Internet.
They're like a front desk.
You head inside, and it seems like there's a front hall and a bunch of signs pointing in various directions. You know, there's the civic meeting room down that way. There's... Did we lose somebody?
Just reconnected.
Okay. How much did you hear?
I think I got most of it.
Okay. Civic meeting hall. There's the arrow pointing towards like a classroom over here, and then the library back that way. So you follow the signs, and it opens up into this large room. Maybe at one time it was something like maybe a banquet hall or a just a grand like sitting room type area, and it's actually a small series of rooms interconnected, but they're all lined and filled with bookshelves. And not far inside, kind of in the center of this very first room that is the library, there is actually a kind of a large square that seems to be made up completely of desks pushed together as a kind of counter. In the center of the square, some cabinets and shelves, and kind of in the ring in between these two furniture structures, just a whole bunch of people in those shirt sleeves that have the bands around the upper arm to tie them up out of place. A fair handful of spectacles amongst them. And you seem to have found the scribes. A lot of ink-stained fingers, not very many muscles.
He feels very out of place, but we'll walk up to the area.
You walk up. Alright. You walk up, you see someone who looks fairly friendly, a young, presumably human, young lady. She's kind of got this dirty blonde hair tied up in a bun at the back of her neck, and she's looking down at the paper as you approach it. Just one moment, just finishes. She looks up.
You can finish
and
off the page if you need.
And up. Oh.
Hi. Sorry, I could use a bit of assistance.
Of
About
course.
the read.
Yeah. Oh yes, we handle things like this all the time. Is it a letter or well, what is the nature of the document?
Read. I need to find.
You are breaking up a bit.
Sorry, can I just.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell.
Okay, I can read. Okay. Gonna reconnect once again.
Test.
Alright.
Test.
Yes.
Okay, let's hope this lasts for like 30 seconds. This is like, hi, sorry, not the research type. Is there any way you can help me find books on places of worship or places of power, of general weird magic or events going on? If I give you vague geographical locations, I just need the books. I don't need them read out for me. I just need to find them.
Well, we could try. Geographical locations and magic?
Yeah, or shrines or something that would imply relative strangeness.
Well, any given city or town of note was going to have at least some shrines to various gods. In fact, most villages will have something as well, just because, well, people need to pray. I'm not quite sure if that's what you're after. As for strange events, legends, or are you after something a little bit more reputable?
Not sure. Either could work, but the more specific to the area, the better.
Well, all right. What's the first area? We can try to start there and look.
Along the banks of the Green River between Polk and Winslow, on the eastern side.
It's a fairly long area, and I don't know of any large towns aside from Polk.
That's alright. I imagine it's going to be relatively isolated.
Well, let's go ahead and look into some of the Azoran histories. And she comes out from around the desk, beckons you to follow, and kind of does the scoot down some of the aisles of books into another room, around some corners. Starts muttering to herself, history. History, okay, this section, and we don't want Umbar, no, Relic is the other direction. Ozora, okay. How recently?
Well, within the last 1,000 years or so.
And
but,
you see that her face.
If it's very recent, that's
Well, that's a very, very large net and very vague. I mean, I realize you narrowed down the geographical region, but most of our histories are going to cover the entire country, and, well, we might have a footnote about that area at best. But I can at least point you in the right direction.
you don't have to pull all the books. For now, I think I'm just trying to find out which books I can reference over a larger time scale if we need to.
Well, I can't say that it's I can't say that it's anything I have expertise in, but I can point you at a few. And she actually pulls partly out from the shelves, just so they jut out slightly, a handful of books of varying widths, and reaches them to a kind of this honeycombed set of cubbies on the side, and starts checking a few scrolls. Most of them she rolls back shut and puts back after reading the first paragraph, but a few she'll leave poking out as well. And she says, well, these are the ones that I think should do you the trick. I know you said you don't know much about research. Do you know about scanning?
Can't say I do.
You don't have to read every word on a page. You just
I
kind
don't
of...
think I could if I tried.
I'm sure you could if you really tried, but no, you just keep a few words in mind that you're really looking for, maybe sentences or phrases, and you just kind of scan down a page fairly quickly and just kind of let everything relax and see if your eyes catch on any of those words.
Oh, these will probably help. He'll reach into his bag and pull out a small pair of reading glasses and put them on. Look once more.
Probably. A few of these books, mostly the newer ones, actually have indexes. Here, let me show you in the back. And she pulls one of them, which does look a little bit newer than some of the older tomes. None of them look ancient. And she flips to the back, shows you down the side, and you see kind of... it seems to be laid out in alphabetical order, and it's these various historical events here, and people's names there, some small town names here and there. You do see Windsor at the end, of course. It's bolded, presumably a big entry. And she basically shows you how to navigate a library.
He's kind of looking down the section and says, and when I find this this reference to indexes, where will that lead me?
Well, you look at the number here, and that is the page number where the information starts. Some of them you see have multiple pages. That's when they are mentioned prominently on those pages. Windsor is probably mentioned a great deal more than just these numbers indicate throughout the book, just because of the nature of it. But these are the really important ones, the ones that are specifically about Windsor, for instance. I'm afraid you aren't going to find any entries that say weird events, though I did pull this
Perhaps
book,
shrines,
and
if possible.
in its strange events of the Kingdom of Azora, or something like that. Well, you can always look at shrines, and she points at the S in the index, goes down to shrines, and it's shrine of this god, shrine of that god, shrine of this god. And it's just this entire, like, subset.
And he'll pull out the paper he made from back in the beginning. Hope for a pen or a pencil to write with and reach into his bag.
Yeah, it is a new day. Give me your d20. Okay. Yeah, 14 is pretty decent.
And he's basically writing down book title, what the index is to referencing, page number for each of what might be interesting.
All right. And she says, all right, I'll be back at the desk if you need any help. Otherwise, there's always some of us going around and reshelving. When you're done with the books, there's a table nearby that you can sit down and work at. When you're done, just leave the books stacked up there. We tend to put them back ourselves. It's easier to keep things tidy and in order. And it also kind of lets us know about what people are interested in, so we know what to look for in the future.
Of course.
So,
Is there any cost?
Is there any what?
Or
Conrad, you're gone. Yep, it's been one of those. That entire thing was lagged. Can you hear me? She informed... Oh, he's gone. He's gonna come back. Okay. There is no cost to using the books. There might be a cost to renting them out. And if you destroy one or something of the sort, if you have a terrible accident, then there will be a cost to replace it. But otherwise, you could stay as long as you like, do the research you like.
Did I drop?
No. And unless you have any other questions, she will leave you to it.
He's actually gonna push these. Sorry, I'm just gathering where I may look later right now. If you can help me look for the other geographic areas, I just need to know where all the books are for today. I don't need to.
Geographic areas. Well, it's a little bit vague. I don't think that area has a really dedicated history to it because there's not much there.
Well, that's okay. I have other areas I want to check as well.
All this and all that and then more in one day, and she's looking at what she's pulled out for you and looking at you, and it is a fair amount.
I'm not the reader here. I'm more narrowing things down for someone else.
Well, squares her shoulders. All right. Do try to keep those in mind, because if we come back, somebody else might have pushed them back into place. But what are the other areas?
And he'll reference the passage on the east of Nutzir and the Dragon Spine, the area just north of Green Lake, and
Note that
anything about the Howling.
Okay, note that the icon just above the Green Lake is actually just set off to the side of the Greenwater Wood. It is inside the wood somewhere, but
then he'll
drawing the icon inside the wood would make it get lost.
Okay, then he'll refer to the woods instead.
Yeah. Yep. The Dragon Spine just has more information kind of in Azora. It's still in the same region area. Greenwater Wood, there's a little bit of information in the area of history of Azora, and then just a little bit in the area that's the history of Veravale. It's kind of on the border in between. There's a little bit that quote-unquote belongs to each. There's not very much on the wood itself. As for the Howling Plain, that has its own section, and mostly it seems to be myths, legends, some records that are said to be true accounts of people who went in and survived coming out. It's got its entire own section, but it's not a large section compared to all the ones belonging to entire nations, kingdoms, or countries.
Of course. Then yeah, he'll mostly sticking to the ideas of shrines or places of worship. He'll just kind of take notes of what pages, what books, what they're about. And once he's got that pretty good list, he will sit down with one for the Howling Plains and begin reading.
Okay, Howling Plains is what you're going for. All right. I would say that you do not have proficiency, and this is an intelligence check.
Yeah, that's fair.
So go ahead and give me that roll. Let's see. Yeah. Scary place, apparently. There's a whole lot of just jumble. You're not sure if all of these stories are real or if there's a little bit of the caught a fish this big element to some of them. Because some of them are talking about how it's just overrun by list whatever monster or beast or being that's of nightmares that you like. There are some that's saying it's completely inhabited by devils and demons, and that one is like, yeah, both. Others say it's overrun by beasts, by ghosts, by witches and hags. Some say that there is an entire nation of orcs at the very center that rule the plains and keep everybody at bay with strange magic and mists. There are some that say, I went out there and I saw an actual giant and I barely escaped with my life. And it's just, it's a mess of information. if even half of it is true, the Howling Plains are, well, chock full of inhabitants. And, yeah.
And I assume not much on places of note within the Howling Plain.
No, mostly it seems to be I got into the Howling Plains a little ways, I got the bejeebus scared out of me, and I skedaddled back out before it could kill me.
Okay. Then after a couple hours of that, he'll kind of take off the glasses, just rub his eyes, and be like, "Okay, now for something fun," and go looking for some more strategy in like martial journal.
Alright, you go off and you find a scroll of a little bit of a sword technique. Something building off of something that you're familiar with, but with a few embellishments and stylistic differences and stuff. Still seems effective though, and you stand there in the middle of the aisle looking at this thing, doing footwork.
Little pencil in his hand as he practices the basic wrist movement.
All right. I presume that is your day?
Yep.
Okay, then. Calder, you've done your bit of shopping. If there's anything else, then let me know.
Nope, probably just sit in the inn, write a letter or two, and just keep to herself for the day.
All right. Ilaris, you go and pay a surprise visit to the Highlands. Aurora's family, you let them know how Aurora and Gage are doing. They're a fairly warm couple. They like you all right for having married their youngest daughter. They absolutely love Gage, of course. So they love hearing about him, and mostly it's just kind of a few hours of catching up and trading stories and what's Saul up to these days? Lucine is she's got her own children that she's taking care of, and you should bring Gage by sometime once all the snow is melted and the cousins can play for a few days. Don't forget you're on push to talk if you're trying to say anything.
Sorry.
Okay. Other than that, it's fairly pleasant. The afternoon comes, and with it, heavy rain. You all keep indoors for a while. Whether it's at the inn, at a home, at the library. It doesn't really slack off much towards the evening. It goes pretty much from the skies are emptying buckets to the skies are letting out a very steady fall. So if you go back to the inn, those who weren't already there, you probably do it with a hood up and hunched shoulders. Elaris, you are offered a room at your in-laws' place if need be.
Yeah.
Alright. So,
Yeah, probably.
Kane and Calda, you're at the inn. Elaris is not. Talsana has not shown up yet. But Calda would know that Kane said Elaris said something about visiting his wife's parents, so presumably he's still there.
Alright, so Lars is probably still with the in-laws. I really hope Alsana's alright. How many days did you say to wait again, Kane?
Till she gets here.
What if she doesn't?
We wait less than that then.
I still don't know. It's nasty out, but I think she likes the weather, but it's still... I really hope she doesn't get sick.
Well, it took us a day to get here, 2 days to get through the forest, so give it 4 days before we leave.
Yeah, 4 days is good.
And for now, let's start asking around about nosy person on a broom bothering people.
Yeah, maybe they've seen her a little bit.
I'm sure if she's here, someone has.
Or at least if she's been here before, they'll remember her.
Kane will kind of just leave a message with the barkeep to see, like, hey, if this person comes by, just tell me.
Alright, the barkeep takes the message, friend of yours?
Something like that.
Well, he gives you a look. It's not going to be trouble on me or my establishment. I'll be happy to pass it on.
I mean, personality is a bit of a nuisance, but past that shouldn't be too bad.
Well, all right, I'll take your word for it, lad. Tucks the piece of paper away in just underneath the corner of his ledger where he won't forget it or lose track of it. So, will he be staying another night then? Just the two of you, not the third?
Yeah, he found a place to stay elsewhere. I think I'll do so, sure.
Right then, glad to have you. Dinner tonight, soup. Good for staving off all that out there.
I'll take it happily.
Right, you guys are fed. You have a nice warm fireplace to eat by, a nice warm couple of beds to stay the night in. Listening to the patter of rain on the rooftop as you fall asleep. Alsana, have you figured out a way to stave off the rain and make it in that night, or are you staying the night and make it in the morning?
Persistence.
Okay.
That's how.
All right, so you are pressing through the rain.
She is mad because she's not getting her rainy day in the library, and she is so annoyed.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, you press on through the rain, it's driving, lashing into your eyes and face. You're having to blink a lot to clear them and get it out of the way. At this point, it was heavy enough and has been long enough that it's pretty well soaked through even your heavy outerwear. There is kind of an uncomfortable dampness that's seeped through even to Alsana's skin at this point. Go ahead and do a survival check to see how well you're navigating on this very dark and stormy evening. By all means. Alright, 18. Yeah, it is not easy. And in fact, for a while there, as you're getting into the outskirts of the wood, you're starting to wonder, oh, did you turn wrong? Did you get slightly off course? You're looking around, it's just dark, it's wet everywhere, but you press on just in case something comes up, and eventually, through the darkness, something does. You see, faintly, through the curtains of rain, the small pinpricks of light of the little town of Sorren. You know the gates are closed by now, of course, but again, you are on a room flying through the rain. On a broom, flying through the rain. So, you fly in, swoop up over the wall, down into the streets. Empty, abandoned, time of night and weather combined. Pretty much clearing off anybody who has anywhere to go. You land with kind of a splash and a little bit of a soppy squish.
She gives herself a quick shake. Looks around. I don't know where they are. Oh, they'll know where to find me. And she heads to the library.
Yep. Yeah, you pretty much went to the forest gate, which is the one further to the south, right against Sorren Wood. So the library actually is not very far away. You know that the library itself doesn't really let rooms, and they do, they're not like 24/7. They do close their doors at a certain time in the evening so that all the scribes can go home, everybody can rest. However, there are one or two inns not too far away.
Alright, she'll stop at a nearby one.
Alright, let's say that one is the, names on the fly.
Suffer.
That one is the Resting Rook.
learn to play chess? Pushes open the door.
Actually, it is a detail that Alsana would probably appreciate. Instead of a rook from chess, it is a rook as in the large black bird.
Ah,
It's kind of got its head folded down towards its wing.
yeah, she just nods like, okay, this one.
That is why I picked the name. I figured Alsana would go for it. So you head in, kind of dripping water all over the floor.
Her makeup is running down her face like a horror movie.
And like a horror movie, you come in, little ding ding of the door, little
Can
bell
a
over the
lightning
door.
strike behind the in a window behind her right as the bartender walks in?
There is the feel of it. There's no actual lightning in this storm, but you come in and
Yes,
are
there
you
is.
actually?
She'll do it in the air, like from air to air. That's what
Yep.
she'll target it. But the
Yep.
storm's going. She takes control of it.
That is not how lightning works. Good.
Regardless, sure. At that point, you very carefully you listen for the footsteps in the faint. I'm coming. From down a little bit of hall, other room. Tap tap tap. Somebody comes out, and there's just this, and this stumble backwards into the doorway, and somebody, the person who's appeared there, another human, another young woman. Well, not young. She might be like a middling adult. Clutching her chest. Oh my! Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, miss. Oh, for an instant, I thought I saw something.
I'm sorry, dear. Are you? I didn't mean to scare you. Are you? Are there
Make a
any...
deception check. No, you don't have to. She's not looking that closely, but my god.
Yeah. Let's just see if in any other circumstances how well she said it.
She is smirking as she says this. There's probably as close as Alsana gets to a giggle in the corner of her voice. Just lurking there.
Sorry, I'm just happy to finally be in someplace warm. I had a long trip.
Well, a long trip, and apparently you've been wandering around town for a while. Sunset was hours ago. So, I take it you need a night?
Are there any rooms open currently?
Yes, it's a slow season. Here, and she goes and pulls a book up from below the counter, takes whatever name you might give, room for one, directs you to the room, and sorry, I don't have much in the way of dinner. I can get you
It's no issue, dear. I have a bit of food of my own.
well, okay. Well, breakfast is bright and early in the morning. Comes with the price of the room. Well, welcome to Sorren.
I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Enjoy your stay.
Is there a
Hands over the
fireplace
key.
nearby?
Yeah, there is one in the corner. It's not up and roaring, but it is a nice steady crackle.
She lights it up a bit more.
Do you wander over to the fireplace and just poof, or is this from a distance?
She'll walk over to it.
Okay.
She's not risking throwing it across the room.
Yeah, okay. You do so, and the fire goes. There's another quiet. And then a patter of footsteps as she goes back into the other room.
Alsana tries her best to compose herself.
Alright, I'm not going to make you do any check for that. That is up to you entirely.
No, it's just like trying not to burst out laughing right now.
Yep.
She
but
dries herself
you're-
off, she wipes her face down.
You don't get completely dry. That would take a great deal of time that you don't necessarily have. But
Yeah,
when
just
you get up to your room, there's
gets off the
places to
chill.
hang. Yeah, there's places to hang the still slightly damp articles of clothing, and you're able to get a equivalent of a night's rest. Yeah, it might be a couple hours short if you 1 hour short if you tend to get up at dawn, but you could sleep in a little bit.
Just a little.
All right. So, after that bit of drama, morning of the 7th comes, and Alsana, you do your weather report, and you see a fairly cloudless sun.
She swears.
You get up, you get dressed. Things are still just a tiny bit damp, but it's livable. They're mostly just cool.
God's damn shrine water. Gets up, smears some dark around her eyes. If I just remembered the first time.
Elaris, you get up and your in-laws feed you breakfast, and if you choose to leave that day, they send you on your way. Kane and Calda, another morning in the Hammered Haddock on the other by the other gate. Everybody starts their day, does their morning rituals, eats a quick meal. And what would you like to do today, the 7th of rainfall?
Back
So I'm gonna make a quick beeline to the library.
Okay. You are immediately to the library, and it is a haven of books, learning, parchment, and ink.
She looked outside, still sad that the weather is nice out.
Alright, Tumblr 2013.
Have you been keeping up with the character?
I know, that was... Sometimes it's oblique, I'm sorry.
She is bleak, you're right. She walks in just... Okay. Others can find me at their leisure. I can be here at my leisure.
Yep. And what would you like to search for first?
She is first going to... She's gonna start off... Let me just double check real quick. There it is. Yep, she is going to look up for the dragon spine, but more specifically that little, I guess peninsula, the kind of that right there.
Okay.
Or what is it? Is there a name for that body of water?
I didn't come up with one. It's pretty much just this, like, very small valley inside the dragon's spine. There's mountains on the other side of it. There's a little bit of a pass that kind of goes through there, and kind of out on the other side into, a kind of country land beyond that. It might be part of Veravale at that point. But just off the map. But yeah, are you looking into, like, specific history, geography? It's kind of separated by topic more than place.
Alright, she'll do a brief history overview.
Alright, so you actually
she's
go
looking
to...
for any influential figures, as well. She'll hold on the geography, she'll check that as well afterwards.
Okay. Influential figures. Alright, you go over to the history. It's kind of the same section that Kane was in before, though Alsana would not know that. It's the bit on kind of Azora, maybe a little bit in Veravale, though not so much for that region. And kind of just the unsorted history in between that's just like, yeah, these are the outside reaches. These might not be under any particular kingdom or country. Poke through, maybe pull a few things that look like they might have promise. I would say in your case, it's an intelligence check with probably a proficiency.
History?
Given... Yeah, go ahead and... Yep, it is history. You're not outright remembering, but you are researching, so we'll go ahead and call it that. Oh yeah, 23 plus 4. 27.
That's more than 3 times Kane's. I'm so happy.
Of course, of course.
It was more
So-
times Canes with the +4.
Alright, so you were specifically looking into the dragon spine.
Yep.
And that valley. Most of the information you find, there's not really much of historical note. Maybe once or twice there was like a war or a battle and maybe an army marched through, but not very often. For the most part, it's kind of stories and stuff about, long, long ago, there were dragons centuries before, and Dragonspine is, of course, named for them. They are not really. They haven't been seen in centuries, so it's assumed that either they have moved to other regions. They have either moved to other regions of the world than the Dragonspine Mountains themselves. And I'm going to say, given that history check and everything, your memory's good enough in general. You remember that Tokeni's family is from the other side of the map, the Riolet Mountains, beyond those.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dragons, we don't know where they are, and she's like, I've met two.
Okay.
These ancient, influential, powerful figures. No one's talked to one in thousands. Like, I know two.
Yep.
I'm pen pals with one.
Yep. Okay. So she has a happy little snigger. You do get a hold of an author who is kind of pointing out that, not all dragons live in mountains. There are some that hide in forests, rivers, lakes, wander hills, even towns. Some that can disguise themselves as humanoids. Just because you don't see them all the time doesn't mean they're gone forever. But yeah, the age of scaling a mountain only to see a plume of fire from a scaly mouth is pretty much past, given all things. That being said,
book,
there's...
Could she just check for any, notes on silver dragons?
It doesn't really go into specifics about dragon types. It does say, though, that it does mention the valley in the Dragonspine itself that's marked on maps. It does say that it is uninhabited, and that there are some tales, like old stories, almost on the level of myths, legends, maybe even fairy tales, that say that once upon a time it was inhabited by humanoids, and then the dragons came and either killed or enslaved or ran out its people. And in some of those stories there are heroes that come from there. In others they come back and roust the dragons, but they choose not to rebuild.
She'll look into
Others,
any, hero
there are other stories that say that actually no one ever lived there, and that it's basically holy ground not meant for humanoids to linger on, and there's just various attributions to this god or that god, and it pretty much depended, it seems this author is putting down, on whoever the last teller of that legend most revered, it seems.
Yep.
There are oblique references this book puts of kind of on that holiness thing of some kind of special location, a place of power of some kind that might be in there, but it's this great big, it's part of the fairy stories pretty much.
She'll look into the a bit more of those fairy tales and great heroes that came from the Dragonspine and stuff like that.
Yeah. There are a few, and some of them actually run on the kind of thing where, myths have regional variants. So you kind of end up with a handful that pretty much hit the same story beats, or at least similar ones, but in one maybe the hero is a dragonborn, in another it is a human, in another it is a paladin of such and such, of the elves or something.
Any names she knows are recurring?
For the most part, they are generic names, kind of like Jack, or they are just, the hero, the knight, the
There's no
insert.
specifics.
Yes.
Yeah. There.
Yeah, these are very old things. Yeah, this is very much on par with and the princess went to the ball and left a glass slipper behind.
Okay.
And in some stories, she goes to the ball 3 times, and it's 3 different, pieces of costume, and the last one was the slipper. In others, it is the one time, and that's it. That kind of thing.
Is there any mention on, heroes rising to power and stuff like that?
In just that region, or those legends, or just in general?
Yeah, that region, those legends, but also she'll keep an eye out for the more general stuff of that area. More to the east side of the country, I guess?
Yeah, just in general with hero stories, you're going to have rises to power. They are going to be a dime a dozen just because of the genre.
She's looking for.
I know what she's looking for. I'm just saying that in among that, nothing is really ringing a bell. Nothing is saying, and the hero drink from the holy fountain was granted ultimate power. There's nothing really like that. It's just, this mighty hero went into the mountains to prove himself, and he returned and did this heroic deed. And that's pretty much as close a shade of implication or meaning as you're going to get.
Okay.
So that's probably a good hour or two. So let's go ahead and jump over to the others.
Right.
And see if they catch up with you at all. Or if they're doing anything else in town. So, Kane, Calda, Alaris?
Like I mentioned, Kane's going to the library.
Alright, Kane, you go to the library. Calda?
Calda's probably gonna join him. Just she has nothing else and wants to see some books.
Alaris? Are you tagging along?
Yeah, I'll tag along for the time being, but I do try and street for a little bit afterward.
Okay, sure.
See what's going on.
Sure. So, you three, you have your breakfast, you go to the library. Let's go ahead and say that you're a little bit delayed because maybe Alaris wants to go to Shrine Street first. I cursed myself when I came up with that name. So maybe you guys tag along with that just to give Alsana the time and we're not interrupting before she gets that information. So
As soon
kind
as
of
Kane sees it coming with, it's like, alright, these books are for you, these books for you, let's go.
you walk in and there's Alsana, safe and sound.
Kind of just look at it, it's like, pulls out a longer list, walks over to Alsana, these books are for you. Goes to
She notices him walking up and just sighs.
And he hands you a list and says he found you books.
She looks at the list very scrutinizingly.
Yeah, actually, because he was not the one picking the books, the book that you're reading, you just finished looking through on the Dragonspine in that valley, and the legends thereof, that's actually on the list under that section. The other books you don't know about, you haven't poked into yet, but there's quite a few of them.
I just have to roll an insight to know if it's clearly not his pure handiwork.
I mean, your suspicion could stand regardless, but
Okay,
sure.
It's reasonable that she would just kind of be like, probably not.
I mean, if that's something that Alsana would assume, then that's something Alsana would assume.
Brother's a brick. Yes, she'll assume it.
Okay.
She'll just look. Whose handiwork is this?
Didn't catch your name, one of the scribes.
So.
But I picked out the sections at least. Figured
Oh,
I'd save you the time, go looking for it yourself.
oh, congrats! You saved my whole 5 minutes.
You can thank me later.
Shades off a bit of time.
He's kind of like, pats the list and says, oh, I'm gonna grab mine. Okay. Goes to find a few books on the Greenwater Wood.
Just as he's going, it's like, what did she look like? The one you talked to.
I'm gonna be honest, I was cutting out for a lot of that, so I can't tell you.
Okay.
Yeah, Kane would know, basically, like I said, dirty blonde hair pulled into a bun. She was smaller than Kane, though that's not necessarily saying a lot. She might be a little bit shorter than Alsana. He probably didn't look close enough to get, eye color, and she was wearing kind of, just a relatively plain shirt underneath a, simple dress. So there wasn't anything that stood out about her clothing or anything. She was one of those that did not have a pair of reading glasses.
Ooh, that's a sore thumb.
Well, not as sore thumb as you might think. There are a good few of those. The glasses are scattered amongst them, but they are not ubiquitous. Just throw out another detail. Sure, there's a little splattering of freckles on her nose.
Right. Okay, she's gonna look around for said description.
All right. Go ahead and do an investigation check for this one. So you're being specific. You're hunting. $24. You and these guidance rolls. Okay. For whatever purpose. Yep. For whatever purpose you have, you follow a few. Your eyes track down a few blonde-haired people. Kind of go, no, not that one. That one's not in a dress. That one's a man. That one is probably too tall. And then you go, wait, that one over there. And the hair is kind of in a bun, but it's got a little bit of like the braided sides wrapping around it, sort of thing. And it's this time it's different day, so the dress has just a little bit of embroidery around like the neckline and the hem. It's not completely plain like Kane was probably describing, but you kind of get around as she's reshelving a few books, finishes, dusts off her hands, and turns around, and yeah, there's a little spattering of freckles on her nose, and
Alsana is right
she's
behind
looking
her
around.
when she turns around.
Okay, she turns around, and there's a little oh. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you come up. Is there something I can help you with?
Yes, I was wondering if this was your handiwork. I believe you helped an orc person the other day.
She looks at it. Oh, very tall, kind of
Yes.
has and she gestures the hair. Yeah,
Face like a
yes,
brick.
well, I didn't think so.
Oh, really?
But,
Anyways,
well,
I'm sorry.
yes, I did. Is there a problem?
No, I was just... he intended to, I guess, start the search for me, but, it's not a strong suit, so I was wondering if I could get a bit more straight from you what he was questioning and what topics were being searched for, because I'm not sure if there's the remembrance there or how well he could get it to me, but from a scribe like you, I might be having a better place to start from.
Well, it was at least sweet of him to try. But yes, I'll do my best. He asked about in certain regions. Odd things happening. I guess shrines. I guess history. Important names. There wasn't really much to go on. He didn't really choose locations that had a lot of strict history to them, but I gave him regions at the very least and possibilities. It wouldn't have been easy to search.
She just kind of glances over and just like, and I assume this would be here, and this, and she just kind of like double checks where these books would be.
Yeah, you're in the right area. There's these are all titles from the historical section. You actually found her just a little bit over, but she follows you back to that section and kind of pops some of the titles she picked out from the shelf slightly so that you can see them. Yeah, these were about the ones. Again, it's not really my area of expertise, but if you come across anything that I've missed, then, well, that would be why. But they should be a good starting point.
Yes, I believe so. Now, if you don't mind me asking, do I sense an iota of interest in the gentleman you spoke to yesterday?
She starts going pink.
Dear, you can be honest. It's a library.
Well,
where things are kept quiet and within books.
She looks around. How many of the rest of the party is within your shot?
Kane's in a totally different section.
I'm probably in a shot.
Yeah, if she went looking for her, so she probably walked off.
Yep. Well, you came back to the same section you started in, so she could show you the same books.
Oh, fair enough.
She's just, well, I don't know. Just the one time. But I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
First sight.
Is he your Is he your
Brother, yes.
brother,
Oh my god. You're really not doing this right now, are you?
Really?
You're really doing this right now.
Yes, don't worry, dear.
I'm sorry. Not much
No,
family resemblance.
No. Prefer to keep it that way personally, but I can only judge other people's interests so far.
Yes.
Is it at all
Again, I don't.
rugged
maybe.
good looks?
Maybe.
Oh, you're
It's just-
adorable.
Very different.
Not used
you
to
aren't gonna
something
tell
like
him-
that in the
It's
No.
not so much that it's I don't know. It's okay. You're not gonna tell him, right?
no, I'm
Look,
glad
it's
you asked.
very. It's just very, very awkward and embarrassing. I know it was just like the first day, but it's yeah, I can't say anything. It might be nothing. It might be meaningless. I completely understand that, but so don't say anything.
I
please.
understand that, but just you seem a little worked up, I guess to say. So
I'm sorry. It's just
No,
kind of
no,
embarrassing.
it's okay. Just it might be a sign that there is something there. Enough to
Maybe.
be more than one day.
Well, let me know if you need any more help with the research. I should be around the desk, and if I'm not, I'm probably shelving the books.
Let me know if you need any help too, dear.
Right. Okay. Yes, I will. Thank you.
Sure.
Scoots off. Kane, you see this brief flash of a vaguely familiar face and form go by. Blonde hair. She looks at you. Eeps kind of does this tiny little wave and then keeps going.
He'll wave back. Just turn back to what he was doing with the glasses on.
I give Alsana like a doting, like disappointed father look. Just really.
Oh no, it's nothing like that. Just
Are you sure?
oh, just wondering how many days we're spending here. That's all.
All right. So everybody is doing their research. Kane, you mentioned Greenwater Wood. Go ahead and do the intelligence check to see what, if anything, of interest you find.
All right.
15. All right, that's not too bad. Let's see. Mostly you see kind of more oblique references. You know, this is on the edge of Greenwater Wood, the town of Azir, Green Lake, the river that runs into it and out of it, the hills nearby, the fact that it kind of splits official Veravale off from quasi-official Umbar and Azora, between that and the Dragon's Spine, as kind of a natural barrier. Most trade and travel doesn't really go through it so much as skirting the edge of it. There is not a great deal of detail because there's not any really major historical things of note in the forest or of the forest itself. You might find reference to maybe clans of druids or rangers that either make a living from the wood or live within it. But
Okay,
mostly you're not
If
seeing
that's
a
the
lot of
case,
detail.
He's going to focus a lot on the creatures that are in the woods.
Okay.
And then once he finds out what they are, go to do research on them.
I'm gonna notice this research going on Kane's end.
It really depends. I guess do a perception check
She-
if you're
like-
trying to
like she wa-
crane your
she's
eyes.
pretty much glancing at what everyone is doing at some point.
Okay. More than likely. More than likely you see about what he's looking into. Just the region, the title on the books.
And she'll just lean over. It's like, so, what'd you find?
Couldn't find much on locations to go through, but trying to get some knowledge on what we might have to fight there. Maybe give us an edge. It's more my style, anyways.
I think you've got, there might be other places that are more worth your time.
Yeah, what's your suggestion?
Mm,
You know that just finding research isn't my thing. I'm trying to look for how I can fight best.
I know, I'm just... Look, if it's a big, difficult thing for you, then I don't want you wasting your energy on things that we might already know.
Oh, what do you already know then?
Well, I know I spent a number of years in the Greenwater Hills, so...
Enlighten me then.
What does Alsana know about general flora, fauna?
Fairly standard for a large, deep, old forest.
What's yours?
Occasionally. You get your odd owl bears. Sometimes there might be something like a cockatrice. On really, really bad occasions, you've heard about things like carrion flowers, for instance, but those are rare. You haven't ever encountered one. Mostly, though, it's your bears and wolves and deer, oh my.
Mostly your standard affair of wildlife in a large forest. You'll get the occasional oddity, the large chickens or the owl bears. Maybe a rather hazardous plant I've never seen myself, but I've done some research and heard some stories. Nothing above things like the blight that we were fighting earlier, though.
That's alright. I'm hoping to see if there's a relative pattern to where in the forest the more rare stuff comes out.
You could just ask me, you know.
Like, were you there in the whole forest watching it?
Group moved about.
Good to know. Well, in that case, I'll leave Greenwater to you, and I'll start researching the Howling Plain.
She stops Howling Plains, you say?
Yeah, it's our last stop, isn't it?
Yes, just send any books you find on that my way.
Well, your list was filled with most of that. Figured there's so many legends to do, that's when I parse it out.
Yes, it's just that's a particular interest. I've lived close to them, and well, you know the ideas surrounding them.
Wish I could say I do, but I think what I hear mostly is folktales.
Exactly.
Yeah,
There's nothing
concrete.
solid, nothing concrete. I want there to be, and if we're heading into them, I'll be able to find it out.
Works for me.
She just lightly evil laughs as she walks off.
Hey, hold on, one more question.
I was in the middle of something.
Yeah, you can do your dramatic exit later. Dragon Spire. You already had the books in that, but if you can handle the Howling Plain, and the Greenwater. I can't do much there, so I'll maybe take the Dragon Spire off your hands.
I suppose if you can find anything else, I already gave them a glance before you showed up here.
Not sure. Again, looking more where we're going to be fighting than actual geography.
Fair enough. Myths and legends, not much of dragons around there anymore, but if you're looking for the more small fries, then have at it.
Anything I can edge. He'll take the list and pretty much take note of as many of those creatures as she mentions, then go back to find the scribe he spoke to previously.
All right. You do so. She's back at the desk. She's moved on to helping what seems to be another customer. Kind of an elderly fellow. Looks weathered skin.
I have a passive
Kind of
7.
gnarled hand.
Do I see this?
There are bookshelves in the way. You do
Mm.
not. Unless you are specifically following, you've got broken line of sight.
Alright.
But right now she is currently seems to be taking dictation from this man, so she's busy at the moment.
He'll take a chair and just keep going on the book he's reading until she's done.
Okay. It could take a little bit, so we'll go ahead and jump over. Is Calda researching anything?
Calda put 2 and 2 together and is looking for stuff at the Howling Plain, but she looks visibly confused.
All right. Go ahead and probably make it a history check.
Idea.
Are you proficient in those, or?
Oh wow, that's
Alright.
pretty good.
13's not bad. 13's not bad.
Thank you.
Yeah, 17. All right. Howling Plain. You kind of find more of the various legends that Kane had been finding. And let's see. You notice after a while that some of the most repeated legends seem to be of witches in there. There's mention of things like shacks that slowly wander in the mists, warlocks, sorcerers, oathbreakers, hags. It all gets very it all gets very Fell Night in this world. Halloween in ours. Still, there are stories, or at least implications, that say that some that come to them and amuse or impress them might leave with a gift or a granted request, so it might be worth the risk of getting a curse laid on you instead. There are plenty of legends of those, though, too. There's mentions of various ruins in the plains. As far as anybody dares go in or has come back to tell the tale, though, it's mostly stuff like small stone structures, the occasional like foundation of what might have been a tower or a single building here or there. Occasionally, you might get somebody really desperate, often, say, a criminal or some other kind of runaway, who will go out there to try to hide for a while. On some of the edges, there might be some monsters. Plenty of ghost stories, again, what Kane found. But you're kind of parsing through and kind of weeding things out and going, yeah, this story about the child who went in, was found by an ogre and tricked their way home free, probably not accurate, but we'll keep an eye out.
Alright.
You know that also that though various countries through the centuries have quote-unquote laid claim to the Howling Plain, Umbar being one of the most recent, nobody has ever really settled it. It's kind of considered not persona non grata, but terrain non grata. It's nobody wants to go there.
Alright.
Kind of.
Calder's gonna write a note and just go, Alsana's birthplace. Got it.
Speaking of which, Alsana is going to be taking all the runoff from both Kane researching the Howling Plains earlier, and the notes he left for that, and also just seeing Calda doing it will also just basically be not looking over her shoulder, but like she puts down a book, Alsana picks it up and like checks if Calda has any notes or anything like that.
Okay.
Calda will thank her
You're
each time.
pretty much picking up everything that I relayed to Calda. There is no separate check for that.
All right. Yep, she's just going through doubling and seeing if there's anything she can parse, any weird, like offhanded facts she knows that could confirm or deny certain accounts.
Probably not. Most of these history checks I'm kind of taking as you find the right passage, the right book, the right author, whatever. Not so much as you are gleaning the information correctly. Though there is a bit of that involved. It is also a little bit of you picked up the right source material.
Alright.
So if you're doing all the same sources as Calder, you're not going to get anything new.
Okay. Then from there, could she then cross-reference with hag information?
Hag information. Your research hags in general?
Yes.
Different section of the library entirely.
Alrighty.
Okay, so you can kind of go and find the section on, various creatures. Yeah, let's put it at creatures. And, kind of stuffed in between, like, Fae and Fiend, there is this little section that's, this little shelf devoted to various hags. Myths and legends thereof, history thereof. Yeah, you get see a few references to them as witches. You see sometimes references to their non-hag like apprentices or servants or followers as witches instead, in kind of the same vein as warlocks. It really depends. And it's kind of probably about what you expect. Is there anything specific you're looking for?
She's looking for any information for Hag specifically with Howling Plains.
All right, do your history check.
Alrighty. Do. Damn it. I'm sad when it's not a 20 now.
Yeah, of course. 17. Pretty much what Calder got. Legends say that there are hags in the Howling Plains. They're either sedentary or sometimes they're said to wander. Sometimes their homes are said to wander.
Ones with chicken legs, maybe.
Yeah. It's kind of agreed that hags don't tend to be very social, neighborly. So if however many there might be, they're probably pretty scattered in the plain. But agreement is that there's definitely not just like one notable hag. There's probably at least a few.
And she's aware of the whole hags can make themselves look like regular humanoid old ladies, right?
Probably. It's magic, and hags can do magic. Sometimes that magic is really weird. Sometimes it doesn't cover everything up. There's plenty of stories about, the hag disguised herself as a beautiful young woman, but she could not hide the tail, or whatever.
What large ears you have,
She could
what
not-
big teeth you have.
Yeah, she could not hide the look of her eyes. She couldn't hide the hole in her back.
Did you know the little bit with sea hags and can't turn into anything that's not horrifically ugly?
Possibly.
Okay.
It might be attributed on the 17 more as, some hags.
The ugly ones stay ugly.
Some hags stay ugly. Alright. Elaris, are you doing research on anything in particular?
What was on the list for me? Sorry.
Yours would have been
Oh,
primarily
Sonic-
Green River.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Prob-
then I'm probably just looking through that then.
Windsor, Puck, Azora. Do a history check.
Alright, give me a sec.
Okay. Alright, you came out of the
I-
game.
Yeah, his sheet is
Yeah.
unfortunate, terrible.
Okay.
Not my sheet. Yeah.
You're everything. Do you remember
Everything
what
sucks right
bonus
now.
you have on history?
Not really.
How's your
Okay.
intelligence score?
Let me open it for him.
Intelligence is a -1.
Oh, that's right. Conrad has access to your sheet.
Yes.
Don't worry, I'm not going to scroll anywhere. I'm just going to get the number for you.
Go ahead and hit intelligence. Sorry, history for him.
I just thought to wait for it to load for me.
Okay.
I'm assuming Alsan is either helping Calder or doing herself right now, so guidance is not an option.
Yep.
That would be a -1.
Okay. Click that button.
Oh, I thought he rolled a -1. I was
John, as usual, you're on out the self, so I gotta roll it again.
Yikes. Sorry, I was testing things.
That's fine.
5.
It's the same
It's a-
roll anyway.
It's a very green river. It is a green
Wow.
river indeed.
Why is it
Very
green?
good.
It's in Azora.
Don't know.
Yeah, you're not quite sure about all this.
It's been a long time. It's been a while since he's had to do anything relatively scholarly.
Yeah. You kind of do the thing where you read for a little bit and then you go, wait, I didn't really retain any of that, and you have to back up and read again. It's
Oh
slow
fuck!
going.
I haven't had that. Oh, that sucks.
Yeah, you're not in a studious mindset at the moment, unfortunately.
Dolores is a dad trying to read Wikipedia and not getting it.
Perhaps a little of that. Again, like you said, it's been a while. You might have done scholarly stuff in Walton. You might have visited Sorren, even visited this library before, but that was kind of years ago. And then there was a whole thing with the
this scholarly
blights
stuff
and
was kind of like
yeah.
brain's too full of stuff about blights and stuff. Gotta
Yep.
push it all out. Just like,
So, Dolores,
Yeah.
how are you doing?
Yeah, that's the thing. My brain isn't quite functioning correctly as of right now. It's been years since I've done anything relatively scholarly.
Have you tried turning it off and on again?
Not pulling a Caius to this man's brain.
Yeah, no, it's just like, yeah, I immediately had like the Caius response of, yeah, let me just real quick just smash my head into this table to turn it off and on again, but no, we can't.
So you haven't have much on the Green River then?
No, unfortunately I can't retain much of what's being said.
Can Alsana, just as maybe a last thing, how long are we going in the library right now?
The amount of research you guys have been doing, you have gone through lunch at this point.
Okay. She's going to do one more. She's going to look up specifically about the area between Windsor and the Green River, like where they know that shrine is.
Winterthor and Puck down the side of the Green River.
Yes.
And again, you're not going to find a single book or scroll that's dedicated purely to that area. You've got to look more general and then try to hone in. So give me that history check to see if you find the right stuff.
Right.
And I know guidance as usual, so you don't have to... Okay, go for it.
Hey, you told me before, we gotta make sure to do it.
I know.
So I'm doing it.
I just want you to mention it at the very least. Okay, give me the d4.
Hey, Devin, why don't you set it up so the guidance just rolls a d4 for you?
Probably should. Yeah. 17.
Yeah, 17. All right. About on par with a few others. But there is a bit more information just because Azora is a kingdom with a lot more documentation than these little, like, more natural regions, uninhabited regions. Mostly you find a lot of information about the kingdom of Azora itself. Some things you already knew. Kingdom largely of Dragonborns, ruled by Dragonborns, from the capital city, Windsor. There's trade down the Drake Run towards the Merrimore. There's trade down the Green River, Green Lake into Veravale.
Sorry.
Whoa, that was noise.
Yeah, sorry. Bump the mic on the table.
Yep. Known for pretty much being patrons of the arts in large measure, and also known for a time in their history. Oh, how many years ago? Hundreds of years, really.
462.
Let's see. Sorry. 99 second era. Yeah, pretty much during the second era, before the third. Actually ruled not by Dragonborn, but by a dragon.
Dragon have a name?
I'll say on a 17, you find references to a Vaestron.
Face. Type that out.
Vaestron.
Chat, please.
I will.
It's appreciated.
There we go. Yeah. Ancient green dragon.
Green. Okay.
Yeah.
He's also
Yeah,
not aware of
and-
the color coding.
Probably. And
At
you're
least
also
the
pretty
Cochromac
suddenly...
had.
Yeah. Of note, there's kind of this probably apocryphal legend that the reason the Green River is called what it is because the river looks distinctly green when it is flowing, when it is not frozen over at the very least. And there are, you know, how stories and legends and kind of the wives' tales and urban legends sort of thing crop up. The story goes that it was Vaestron's blood, his death, that stained the river green because it was a green dragon, of course, you know, and if anybody points out even dragon blood is red, then there's just no shh. That's how it happened.
Alright.
Santa Claus is real, kids.
Does she
It's
know any
it's
natural
just a
phenomenon?
story. It's just a story. You don't have to. I mean, you can try and make a nature check
Yeah, I was gonna
just
say,
to rack your brain.
Yeah, is she aware of like algae blooms in the river or something? Guidance.
11 and your D4.
12.
12. You can theorize. There's probably plant life. It might actually be that the water itself isn't green. It might be just that there's enough plant life in it that it seems green in the right light.
Alright.
You can't say for sure. You might have been in Greenwater Wood and stuff. You've seen a little bit of the river. It's not like lurid green. And yeah, aside from like hypothesizing, you don't really have anything concrete.
Well, something to do, I guess.
Yeah, basically the dragon Vaestrin was overthrown, killed near the end of the Second Era, and that's kind of when the new rule of Dragonborn was raised in that place. And
Does she know who killed him, or who's attributed to like overthrowing that?
You don't see specific names, but there is pretty much said that that the line that now rule at least claim descendants from that, claim that ancestry. There are stories that say, you know, yeah, there are current rulers. Let me go ahead and... That's fairly simple info. Let me go ahead and find it. The current queen of Azora is... And I will give you the name in typing. One second.
It just saves me going, how's that spelt, and you saying it out loud.
Queen Lysionora Twice Widowed.
Thank you for fucking typing that. Damn.
Huh.
I'm guessing it's her first marriage?
Well, there's been a couple. But you are kind of looking more towards older history and different regions, so that's kind of on the side.
Yep. Happily married, nothing bad's happened.
No, that was her mother's name.
I was just like thinking to herself, it's like, is that a family name? Did they just give you it once you're on your third husband? But and she'll close the book. She'll look around, see what the rest of the group has come up with, if at all.
Alright. Well, in the meantime, Kane, the one scribe has finished working with the person she was working with before. She's rolled up the piece of paper, handed it over with the seal. He took it and left. She looks around to see if there's anybody else waiting, sees you, kind of...
Flash shatter noise.
A little bit. But you see her kind of draw herself up to whatever height she might have. And she nods. Hello. Is there anything else you can help you with?
Yeah, sorry, I'm a bit embarrassed to bother the other scribes. You already know me. Back on the Dragon Spire, looking for information on these kind of monsters and recency of attacks, anything like that.
Dragon Spire?
Potential strategies to fight. Sorry, Dragon.
Oh, yes, of course.
I think, I don't know if you met her, the dark hair, too much makeup, beads. She was probably researching it.
Yes, she mentioned she was your sister. Did she didn't mention talking to me then? I kind of pointed a few books out to her.
I apologize for you having to meet her. She's...
Oh no, she's fine.
nosy. Oh, really?
Well, she was fine, I thought. Anyway, monsters, dragonspine. Well, I can, that would be this way. And she steers you towards a different section of books, not the historical section. A little bit more on the nature and monster side. Alsana was briefly there earlier as well. And she points you towards, she might see. Your perception is good. It depends on whether they passed by. You roll a d20 for luck.
She might hear their voices. But...
Yeah, perhaps that. The d20 would be for luck of sight. There might be like this brief flash of seeing them through like a gap between a couple bookcases. Not a clear view, but you also hear them.
She's a cat.
Jesus. Sorry, it's a block of text.
All right. You put down the book that you were holding, presumably,
Mhm.
and just.
And the cat
And then
hops up on top of one of the bookshelves.
And then there's this silent pad, pad, pad of paws following. You see them walk over to the section on creatures and monsters and so on. And they kind of go over to the bit on dedicated more towards like mountain monsters, where you see treatises on dragon kind, not just dragons, but things like wyverns that are related, or other similar beasts that are perhaps not taxonomically dragons, but are kind of lumped in the same for being big, scaly, lizardy type magical or semi-magical creature you do not want to mess with.
And if you see one, if you see a dragon, you're likely to see one of these things with.
Yeah, or if you don't, even if you don't see a dragon, this is still bad news.
Yeah.
Things on giant birds of prey, things on just all sorts of rock climbing or even rock composed creatures that may or may not be found on various shelves, cliffs, spines, and spires inside that mountain range. Some are almost of myth, rarely seen, if ever. Others are like, yeah, you kind of get a few giant eagles here and there. If you steer clear of them, though, they should leave you alone. And you kind of get the idea that sometimes you'll have like treasure hunters go up into the dragon spine, reasoning that, oh sure, dragons were there once upon a time, they might not be there now, but who says their hordes aren't? Very few have found any kind of treasure, buried or otherwise. Most just kind of snuff it. The lucky ones come back, even if it's with nothing.
Ken will take a few to take with him. Probably thinner books, because he doesn't have a ton of time.
Mhm.
He's going to kind of mention to the scribe and say, sorry, I never caught your name wrong.
Oh, yeah, sorry. My name's Eloise?
Oh, yes. Thank you, I'm Kane.
Kane.
You mentioned previously you had an expertise, but it's not this.
Well, I'm actually a little bit more interested in Wistman's Wood. It's a area just north and west, across the rivers, more against the Ryolets. It's a fascinating place to read about. Nobody really goes there.
North of the Emerald Field.
Yes, are you familiar with it?
Through rumor, primarily.
Mhm.
I mean, for all I know, I could be heading that way at some point.
Really?
I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm not a quick reader. Would you mind helping me understand what you know about the Whispering Woods? I don't think I can read fast enough to gain the extra knowledge I might need for.
Well, I can certainly try. It's, well, not very much is known about the deeper parts. People don't tend to live in it. Some live by it. They say that trees come to life and walk about like men, and it's very full of magic. Perhaps even that there's crossings to the Feywild. There's plenty of Fey creatures that are seen or found there. It's said to be very difficult to travel in. It's almost completely made of boulders for a floor covered in moss and twisting treetops. I believe there might be a handful of druid tribes that regard it as sacred. There's a few treatises on that I've read. There's stories. They're sometimes very amusing. I should recommend you some if you have time someday, about travelers who go through and have all sorts of pranks played on them by various pixies or sprites. Mostly harmless, though. There are different tales, of course. I prefer the ones that are just the travelers wake up with their bootlaces tied together and, well,
The ones
things
that are
change different colors.
the ones that are a little bit less.
To say the least, yes.
I don't blame you. You mentioned fey creatures. Are unicorns by chance fey?
Oh, no. Unicorns, I believe, are celestial, though a lot of people do make that mistake.
Ah, okay. Yeah, I don't know. They always seem to be associated and found around nature, from my understanding.
Well, a lot of things are found around nature. That's kind of the nature of nature.
I guess that's how everything with people works, isn't it? Fair enough.
Mhm.
I see why. You see why I'm not the scribe here.
Well, you're asking questions. That's always a good start.
Sure enough. Maybe it's my future calling. Someday. And just curiosity, bit of a pet hobby of mine. What are the odds you know anything about becomes a librarian? It's like the dude from the fucking Winterfell and
Only
Skyrim.
struck by lightning.
Well, yes, as usual.
Something hemorrhages in Alsana's brain.
He kind of says like, anything about military texts or strategy? It's kind of more my natural reading material, if you can't tell.
Really? I've not really looked into it myself. I like reading a lot more about other planes, but I suppose it could be interesting. Haven't really tried.
I see a lot of reason I ask is because a lot of the texts about this kind of material, fighting, it's all about fighting people, not about fighting Fae, or avoiding their tricks and not letting them tie your boots together while you're in the middle of dodging their daggers. Figure a bit of a lack of knowledge of the two sides.
Well, most of the stories include the tying of the boots happening while you're distracted or just asleep, so probably keeping watch would be step one.
Yeah, no book is interesting enough to make that fun.
I guess on the topic of dealing with them, very few of them fight outright. There are a few that are really terrible. Red caps, very easiest example. Tied to battlefields and blood and all that as well. But most of them just are. They're too playful for anybody's good. They're just beings of chaos and always looking for a laugh, and sometimes that happens at your expense.
Sounds a lot
So,
like my sister.
really.
Yeah, I think that's. I don't know. Elves are kind of fey, right?
Well, there's legends, very, very, very old ones, that say that the first elves came out of the Feywild and that there are still some there and everything, but it's agreed upon that as far as the theory goes, that there might be some weight to it, given one thing and another. But also that intervening centuries and just being in and of the material plane for so very long means that a lot of the Fey nature has, by now, long since been dampened, I guess. You still have things like you can't put them to sleep magically. That's a very Fey thing from what I've read. And they can be harder to charm or trick. Fae tend to run towards that, so it makes sense that there would be a natural defense to it.
Makes sense. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen her fall asleep when she wasn't actively in her bed, no matter how long she'd gone to the library or anything like that, so.
Well, some people are just like that. It's specifically magic, I think.
Interesting. I probably shouldn't keep you any longer, but I do.
Oh no, it's
Thank you
fine.
for your help.
You're very welcome anytime.
You may see me again. I don't know, I might be leaving town soon, but
Oh,
this place is a good place to get knowledge.
yes. She gets up, starts to go, stops. How soon?
Not sure. Next few days at the most, probably.
Well, I'll probably be here. those days. If you need help finding anything else,
I'm sure I will.
I'm actually though off tomorrow, so you probably won't find me here. If
Kind
you
of
want
raises an eyebrow.
if you want to talk about anything you found or any questions you have, we could arrange to meet somewhere.
I could agree with that.
my
Like I
God.
said, getting knowledge from you might be a bit easier than going through these books with the old glasses.
Of course.
Staying at this inn, do you know it?
She, you mention or write down the name of the Hammered Haddock.
Yeah.
She looks at it. Not really. I'm a little more familiar with the ones kind of in this area. Is that one of the ones by the River Gate, or is it more towards the Golden Gate?
I believe it's the River Gate, I want to say, but how about this? I'll find whatever inn you're more comfortable with. I'm sure you know the cuisine better than I do.
All right. There's actually a little cafe nearby. I like going to. It's called the Book Nook. It's not very creative, but a lot of us scribes and various visiting scholars like to go there for lunches, and it's a nice quiet atmosphere. It's easy to discuss about whatever you're learning and researching.
I'm sure it'd be even better then. Meet you there around noon.
Yeah, I'll be there around noon.
Alright, I'm gonna keep reading. Thank you so much.
Thank you. See you then. Off she goes, and Alsana, you saw the whole thing. You're still a cat on top of the shelf.
There's like a cold shiver that goes down Alaris's back for whatever reason.
Oh, sorry.
Yep, hello. How much did you hear?
That I saw all of it.
Yep, okay.
Alright, so the cat hops down.
He looks at it and goes,
No, the cat waits for Kane to
what?
leave.
oh, okay.
Kane is currently picking books, but there is a table nearby, so he might leave the immediate area.
Probably.
The cat follows the scribe.
Where's Alaris in all of this?
Alaris, you are kind of back in that first section, though you might have given up the research. It really depends on what you've wandered off to. If you're asking if you're running across this, then it might be a d20 roll for luck.
Yeah, I might do that. If not, then you'll probably just be like, nothing interesting's really going on, and go walk down.
Yeah, let's say it's a 50-50 chance. 1 to 10 or 11 to 20. 1 to 10 is no, 11 to 20 is yes. Go ahead and do that d20 to see if you run across a scribe being stalked by a black cat across the top of the shelves. Nope.
I do not, so I just go on my merry way.
Yep. You go to find maybe a little bit of lighter reading material to dip your toes back in. You're going to build
Clean
up
the
to the
brain
heavy
out.
research. Yep.
Yeah.
So, unstopped by anybody, and presumably unseen by anybody, Alsana the kitty cat pads across the top of shelves, kind of maneuvering around spare books and bits and bobs that are up there, and perhaps sneezing a bit from some of the dust. It's not super bad, but you're moving through, and it's probably only taken care of, once every couple of weeks at best.
She hops down and finds like a nearby few platforms that taps up right beside the scribe.
You tap up openly, and it takes Eloise a moment to realize you're down there. She does this little double take, and then stops, crouches down. Oh, hello. How did you get in here? Are you one of our mousers?
Up.
Aww, and she reaches forward, does a little scritch around under the chin. First she offers the fingers to sniff, and then if the cat doesn't bite, she'll try to scritch.
Chill out.
Yep. It is not a long or hard scritch, it's just this little And then she's getting up. Well, I need to get back to work. And there's this sudden and a
Can really-
chorus of
Oh my god.
from all the way around.
Ken
Somebody,
looks over like, you good?
They were a few shelves away. You would hear it loud and clear,
I was
but
gonna
it's
say, he might like
around
walk
the
around like,
corner.
everything okay?
You see kind of Eloise sprawled on the ground, having fallen over completely, and Alsana kind of standing there over her. And Eloise is looking very quickly between Alsana and Kane.
Oh, I'm
He'll
sorry.
kind of sigh and walk over and kind of help her up. It's like, fucking fade child.
I,
Looks
I
at
didn't mean to spook you, dear. I'm sorry.
That's a lie, you know that, Alsana. What did you
That's
do?
She was a cat.
Oh yeah, she
Oh
was
dear,
something
that
else.
wasn't. I didn't offend you. I'm sorry.
No, it was quite nice, actually.
It's very strange to think about, but all right, I'll take your word for it.
Don't worry. I'm usually this. I'm not usually the cat. Yeah, I just had some other questions about books, if that's okay.
Always.
I have
Yes, of course.
I don't mean to keep dogging you, or catting you, with this, but
Kane will sigh at the joke and start walking away.
That's fine. I'm happy to help always. All right. What is it you were looking for?
unfortunately I was lying until you left. I'm proud of you, though. You did well.
He says a blank look on her face, and then comprehension, and then embarrassment. How much did you see and hear?
Oh, just coffee.
Does he like coffee? Did I mess up? All right.
As well, just a little bit for you. If you're interested in plainer stuff, we recently, in our little journeys, came across a bit of a bridge to the Shadowfell. If you're interested in something like that, be sure to ask him tomorrow.
Really? Well,
Good topic of conversation, don't you think?
I suppose. Little on the creepy side for my taste, but that's interesting. I will save questions, though. I'm very curious now. No, I won't ask.
I'll give you
All
some
right.
proper notes. How about I give you some proper notes on it once you've had some talk?
All right. I'm sure that it'll be fine, though. Just asking.
Good for you, though. I honestly didn't think it was that quick.
Well, if you're only going to be here a few days, well, there might not be much chance, even if it doesn't really go anywhere because you leave.
I'd like to offer you a bit of an alternative then, maybe, if you think he's worth it.
Well, I don't really know yet. That's kind of what this first outing conversation is supposed to be for, I think.
Yes, just I have with me a little magic trinket, let's say. It lets me easily send letters back to a basically the place we're working for the time being. It's a place in Threshold, actually.
Really?
And they
I
have
thought that the only thing on Threshold was that whole the monk order complex thing.
yes, that
That it? Oh, really? All
And
right.
they have methods of getting letters to us as well. So, should you find this potential worth your time and worth some ink, you can simply send it towards them, and they'll get it to us. And at the same time, they'll be able to respond. It'll take some time, but you'll be able to keep up. We can tell you about things. We're sure to run into some more interesting magical effects. Who knows? Maybe other portals to Feywild or things like that.
I'd like to give it a try. It depends on how everything goes.
Yes, of course.
We'll see.
I'm letting you know.
because
Thank you.
especially if well, if things do start going somewhere, she kind of like gives a like a little look to her.
You know, I think he's a little bit, well, it's the sibling thing, isn't it? Siblings are always the worst, but you're pretty good. I think you're better than he, likes to let on.
I'll be honest, I can be a bit mean sometimes.
Well, that's kind of the sibling thing again, isn't it?
Well, to put it frankly, I was worried he'd be a burden on someone, and you seem happy. At least to start. So,
A little early to say, but we'll see.
yes, and, well, you can always plan the wedding by a letter.
And then there's this sudden red all over the face. I think that's a little early to say, but
You're
thank
too
you.
easy. I'm playing with you.
I know. It doesn't help. I know.
You'll do fine. He's not complex.
Well, I guess that's something I'm gonna find out about myself as well, if you don't mind me saying. I'm gonna make my own judgment there.
Yes.
Sibling things.
You're good. You know how to parse information.
Well, kind of comes with the job.
I've a habit of getting into people's business, so I'm sorry, but at the same time, I'd love to see where this goes. Don't be afraid to keep me updated too, okay?
If it does get to letters, I'll try to include at least some postscripts to say hello.
You're a doll. Also, just you've helped us a lot. If there's any general magic stuff you have, I have a bit under my belt. Some basic spells here and there.
Really? Do you know the one that fixes things that are broken? It's only that's a really handy thing to have around a library. Sometimes spines tear a little, and if it's a quick fix, it should be easier with magic.
Mm-hmm. So you gotta look at things for a second. You mean mending?
I believe so. Is that the one that's it takes a little time, but it doesn't seem to, I don't know, according to some, take a lot of effort?
Yeah, it's more basic thing when you can do any point of the day, and she just like she kind of like just puts a bit of frost on her hand, and it goes down, and then a bit of flame, and then it goes down, and then just basic magic.
I've not really looked into magic for myself. I don't even know if I could do any, but
Oh dear, I would highly encourage it.
Well, maybe.
Something like that you're looking for, just a basic cantrip that can help you with things like that. Could do you wonders, and I've not have the particular spell myself. I intend to eventually, but as of right now, best of luck on that. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. I wouldn't know where to start, honestly.
I have a friend actually. She's in town. She knows a bit less than me, or she's not. She doesn't have the more complete spells, I guess. But she's like you. She's learning, and she's got a few basic bits under her belt. It's the best I could at least get you to.
All right. Well, it's maybe worth a try.
And out of character, this is the same library as a certain person, right?
It is the same library as a certain person, not the person you're thinking of or mentioned before.
Not the person I mentioned before, but
It's
the other one in
no.
that category.
Yes, it is the other one, and he actually works as a scribe as well.
Yeah, and she just stops for a second. Let me remember the name real quick. Scrolling. 1 second. I should have put this on our sheet. Forgot to.
I have the post-it note if you want to tap out.
What's there? What's there? Oh yes. Did you happen to be familiar with Uthmar?
A little bit. I don't have a lot of shifts with him, but sometimes we end up working together.
It was. Alsana knows what he did, right?
Yeah.
And, well, I don't think he'll be showing in for work much anymore.
Well, Alsana knows he hasn't left yet.
Oh, he hasn't left yet. Okay.
No.
Okay.
No, he was the one waiting until better weather for travel.
Okay. She goes, get in contact with him as well. I hear he's making a trip soon, but he's also dabbling and he has a spell book under his arm. So.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. But moreover, also, there's a beekeeper out near the outside of the town, Nivira. She's learning as well. And I'm sure the two of you, if you wanted to, go into such a field, could help each other. Even if it was, again, just something basic. Just a few sparks from your fingers here, fixing a broken string there.
Perhaps. I'll look into them. I'll ask them both. I'm not sure that bees are really my thing, but general knowledge I won't turn down.
Don't knock it, dear. There's much to be learned and much you could do.
All right. Ask Uthmar about the spellbook, and Navira who keeps bees. Okay. Thank you very much.
And I'll leave you for now, but any last questions about my brother before you get all smoochy with him?
I am not getting old. I'm sorry, that's a couple of dates in at the very least.
You're a gem. I like you. You have my blessing. She taps her on the shoulder.
Thank you. He can't do the turning into a cat thing, right?
No,
I don't get the impression, but okay.
That is me specifically. He does have some magical weapons, though, if you'd be interested in something like that.
Can't say it's a special interest, but again, always looking for new knowledge.
Yes, you very much have my blessing. She gets up. Well, I'll leave you. I think we've bothered you enough for the day.
If you've got questions about research, you can bother me again. It's no trouble.
There's other scribes, dear.
I am off shift in a couple of hours, though, so I'm afraid you gotta rely on those other scribes at that point. I think Uthmar might be one of them.
I'll be sure to send my brother your way if there is ever a question, though.
All right. Thank you very much again, and she turns around and scoots off back towards the desks.
Best.
All right.
She just leans back and goes, Father's not going to hear a word of this. It's over my dead body. She gets up.
Okay. Anybody else got anything else they are searching for, looking up, anything of the sort? We did lose a John, it seems.
Yeah, John dropped, I think.
Yeah,
His internet crashed.
maybe. I'm hoping for the
Still-
best, but
He's still away on like his Discord because he used mobile for the voice chat, so I'm not sure. His phone could
Yeah.
have died.
Well, Elaris was having a little trouble with the research anyhow. So, anybody else got anything really specific that they're looking for right now?
No.
Can Alsana, we'll glaze over it. Can Alsana stop by and see if there's any alchemy places?
Alright, I mean, there's a higher likelihood here than anywhere else around Sorren Woods, so go ahead and do an investigation roll to see if you track any places down, and yes, you can put guidance on it. 21 plus... 1. Okay, 22. Yeah, you're able to find a place that not only makes at least like basic potions, but also sells kits and simple materials enough to at least get common, maybe even uncommon bases put together.
I love this town. She walks in.
Yep, it's this little like mom and pop type shop. It's a let's
Name
see.
on the fly, Ariel. Name on the fly.
Yeah, name on the fly. There we go. Bell's Bubbling Brews.
When she opens the door, is there a bell?
There is indeed a bell. Yep. It's actually got like a couple of bells of different sizes, so there's this little musical effect.
She looks up.
Ding, 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 ding.
I love this place.
Ding, 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 ding. As the door swings back across them. You look around. It smells like an apothecary, a potioneer's place, an alchemist's place, all at once. There's
The
just...
tear from her eye.
It is almost an assault on the nose, the sheer number and breadth of scents crammed into this one small room.
She wiped a tear of happiness from one eye and a tear of garlic from the other.
Yep. It's you got the sweetness of various herbs. You've got this pungent scent from a set of roots over there. You've got kind of these earthy tones underneath it all. Some sour acritic smells above the whole mess. There is this faint haze across the ceiling. The room is indeed fairly small and, in effect, fairly crammed just with shelves of things. She seems to sell cauldrons of various sizes and various tools. There's entire shelves of glass jars and bottles and ceramic ointment pots and just all sorts of things just empty, waiting to be filled. Another shelf behind the counter stretching across the far side of the room that's full of the similar jars, bottles, containers of various shapes and sizes, only those either have liquid in them or ointment, or at the very least have labels written across them. There's an entire section of dried herbs kind of tacked onto this board on the wall in bundles with little price tags hanging off of them. There's a little, like a rain barrel off to one side that says scoop your own quartz, and it's basically a gold, a bag, and a stack of little like hemp's baggies, woven bags next to it, and the scooper inside the quartz. Like little chunks and shards of it. Not finely ground, but there. Various other racks and shelves of tools, entire, as I said, potion making or identifying or alchemists' kits, like packed into little chests, sorted by beginner and advanced and deluxe. Most of the difference seems to be size, and the sizes up have like either better tools or more of the supplies. The beginner's one is the very basic alchemist's kit, with everything you need except for maybe the ingredients, and that goes up from there. And you see back behind the counter, just off from the side from the shelf of finished potions, there is actually a hearth built into the wall with a fire in it, chimney going up, and on this swinging hook over the fire, there is a cauldron currently bubbling and contributing to the haze on the ceiling, and a woman, middle-aged, kind of gray hair, pulled back from her face in a simple ponytail, shawl around her shoulders, kind of poking at the contents with a spoon. She looks over as the bells ring. "Hello, dear. Be right with you in a moment."
Someone has the look of either a kid in a candy shop or a goth at a off topic. Take your pick.
Both.
Be the
Both
same
is good.
person.
Yeah,
Both.
both is good. And she lifts some of the liquid from the cauldron, lets it dribble back in, thinks about something, nods, and taps clang clang the spoon on the side of the cauldron, then hangs it from a hook just under the mantle. "Right. Anything I can help you with, dear? We've got a few herbs
my
on special
goodness.
today."
What can't you help me with? I've got some, I've recently come into some, my understanding, rare alchemical things, and I've always had a
Ooh, an
interest
in the craft.
Interest in the craft, yes. And my goodness, this is everything I was looking for and more.
Well, excellent. Do you have specifics in mind? Need a few potion bottles. We've got a deal now for 2 for a silver.
How many does she have on her currently?
Did the kit say? I don't think it did. It just said an assortment. How many have you filled with something or other?
3, I want to say 4.
You've got 3 vials of the water. The herbalist stuff you have separate jars for, generally. So let's say that the kit itself came with a base of 10.
I'll Google it see if it does come with anything.
I don't think it had specific numbers.
Alright. So, yep, you said 10 bottles, so I have 7.
Yeah, just threw the number out there.
Alright. Oh, and she'd probably have one of the unicorn dust in it.
Okay, so you've got 6 empty.
And, yep, she's just looking around like, well, I have a bit of a setup of my own, haven't really done much with it. But it is
you have-
fairly rudimentary.
Alright. Rudimentary in the sense of the basic kit?
From the looks of what's there, I think so, yes.
Alright. So I suspect you'll be looking for the makings of bases.
Yes.
Perhaps a few ingredients on the side?
Indeed.
Well, alright. I've got a few, actually pre-packaged recipe bags. If you'd like to take a look here. This one is for a very, very basic healing potion. Occasionally it can go wrong, and you must understand that our ingredients are guaranteed, but the process of putting them together is not.
What would you say, about 50-50?
Probably for most people. Some have more of a knack for it. Myself, I fairly rarely have things go wrong at that level, but it's been known to happen, despite all my best efforts. Potion making is a little bit of a delicate art.
Of course. Might I just ask how long you've, been of the craft?
Oh, close to 10 years now. If not, maybe not quite at 10 years. I believe I started of a summer.
Well, I've got a long way to go then to have anything close to. She's just looking around and still, like, glancing at, like, a bit of everything. Also out of character, she mentioned the whole making of the bases.
Yes.
Did she mean that that is included in the basic, or it's something that I would need to upgrade them for a bit more?
Basically, what she has is she has like individually bought ingredients that you can pick and choose your own to customize. You can decide to take some of the crystals, or you can buy some of the herbs, or you can get perhaps some other esoteric ingredients she has on hand, and make your own base by your own decisions, recipes. Or she has almost like, have you ever seen those like make a soup kits?
Yes.
Where you've got the bag and it's gonna make you a chicken noodle soup. You've got the noodles, you've got the freeze dried veggies.
Blue
You add,
alchemy apron.
yeah, you add your chicken to it. Obviously, you add any ingredients that can't be in there, like the water, but it also has the instructions. Boil this for this long. Add this, add that. She's basically got some of those for like maybe 2 or 3 very common potions. There might be an uncommon in there. Basically for beginners to stretch their wings a little.
Okay. What's the pricing on the pre-made basic healing?
Well, for the ingredients and the portioning and so on and so forth, it is about 20 gold.
Okay.
They are a little bit on the pricey side, but less expensive than buying something already made due to the risk factor involved.
Right, of course. And if I want to kind of so kind of like, if I want to get a bit of some more tools, I guess. I see you have the 3 variants of your tools here.
Oh yes. Mostly it's either a larger size. For instance, the smallest one tends to have the very compact mortar and pestle, good for doing single doses of things or small amounts, but occasionally you want something just a little bit more heft, and she's gesturing bowl sizes with her hands in like 3 intermediate sizes.
Alright.
It's kind of the same thing with the cauldrons available, though our biggest ones, of course, aren't in the kits. Those are on the other wall there, stacked up. You can see, yes, right around there. Other than that, it's not so much more tools as either better quality or larger size for doing more at once. Sometimes more of them in the case of things like the vials. For instance, the basic kit only can carry so many. Whereas the others have more to them.
So, just out of curiosity, are you in the interest of buying ingredients off of people?
Oh, mostly I buy from specific suppliers. No offense, but I don't typically buy off of, just anybody. They don't always know exactly what they're getting, and they don't always know the best quality for alchemy. You might be an exception, of course, dear, but just for the sake of guaranteeing my customers.
Right, of course. She kind of like glances over at the grab your own quartz thing. How much does she know about quartz and its alchemical implications?
It's a pretty good general use base material. If ground up finely and added to the base, there is a fair amount of like magic attractive qualities to any given quartz. So it grabs onto any kind of magic in general. It's probably one of the more popular broad category base additives. Not as common as something like herbs, which are generally a bit easier to get your hands on, cost a little bit less, but you end up having to put more of them in. A little bit of quartz goes further than the same amount of like herbal substance.
And how much was it for like the small bag of quartz?
Oh dear God! I've forgotten my own brain. There was a sign on it. I think I said 2 gold a bag.
Right. I think you did as well. You said it.
Yeah. Yeah, and the bag is if you go over and pick one up or look at it even from a distance, it's basically the amount of quartz it would hold. You get the sense just from the studies you've done on the alchemy and the potion making and so forth that the amount of quartz it would hold, you could pretty easily get. Oh, this is just throwing my gold cost thing all out of whack. But
I'll write down
Yeah.
a bag of quartz if you want. If you
Yeah.
want, just give me a broad thing now and change it later. That's up to you.
yeah. Yeah, that's going to be inaccurate because I just relooked at my own notes. In order to get enough into the base, there has to be a certain gold cost in materials, so they'd have to be better quality than 2 gold a bag. I'd say that you'd have to add other ingredients to kind of make up for it. Because in order to make a common potion, the base usually has to have a worth of about 15 gold. And so the quartz might not be 2 gold bags so much as 2 gold per chunk or something like that. It might be a weight thing.
Okay, then got a little scale there
So-
or something.
Yeah. The bags are probably big enough to hold anywhere upwards of let's say that they're sizable enough chunks that you can get about 50, maybe 60 golds worth in one bag. You don't have to fill it all the way. So,
Good to know. Asana has 4 gold pieces in her pocket currently. So.
Yep.
Right. Okay. Cost. Okay.
yeah. Potions are expensive.
Yeah.
Cheaper to make them than to buy them, but still.
Just kind of like I do find myself I kind of ran in here upon seeing the sign. How much so she got like 4 gold pieces worth of quartz.
Mhm.
That would be then she'd still need like 11 gold worth of other stuff.
Pretty much.
Okay.
It's either going to be a lot of pretty rare or unusual or magical herbs, or if you just can come across something else, then possibly that.
And what is the gold cost, I guess, relative to?
It's relative to how much magic is in it. That's the most sure way of expressing that I have that makes sense on like a character basis, and imposes that kind of limit.
So, like, for example, if, like, dust spells are looked down upon generally in society.
Dusk spells are fairly magical in their own right, but they don't necessarily grab onto magic.
I just mean as just
So,
like for
yeah.
Just as an example, then if you
Yes.
went in an underground thing and you paid a guy 500 gold for 1 blossom of it,
Yeah.
that would not be considered 500 gold worth of blossom.
It might be just for the sake of keeping track of things, but again, it's a poor example in this case of something useful in a potion.
I'm just like, what? Basically,
Yeah.
if you were to be overcharging me for quartz, would that matter?
No, not really.
Okay.
I'm not gonna play at that. So.
All right. Okay, so how much would the like slightly upgraded the middle alchemist kit go for?
Let's see. What's a regular? I'm looking it up now.
Probably like,
Alchemist. Regular alchemist is 50 gold pieces.
okay.
So
like 100,
probably.
10 platinum, 10 big ones.
It might be a scale of like 50 to 75 to 125 or something like that.
Okay. So you don't
Yeah.
buy ingredients. Are you
No,
in much? I'm sorry. I'm excited here, and I don't have the most gold on me right now. Do you do much for? I guess not quite barter, but I know some magic. Could I perhaps assist you in any way?
Well, how good are you with... See, that is the trick, because you have to know some magic. Or at the very least, you have to, have some innate talent in order to even make the ingredients work the way you want them to. However, it's... The most delicate part is really down to the person casting the spell, and... Well, no offense, dear, but I think I've got a little more experience than you might. I don't know all of your capabilities, of course. It might be a little unfair to think, but,
She kind of just like operates a healing spirit in her hand.
well, yes, but knowing the magic isn't quite the same as putting it into a liquid form.
Alright.
You see, there's a certain difference of thought from what I understand. Yeah, basically in meta terms, that is where the craft DC check comes in. And Alsana would be the one rolling it, and if it flubbed, Bella basically isn't sure that she's got the skill level for it.
Alright.
I appreciate your offers, dear, I really do. And, well, if it was another time of year, I might be willing to send you for some ingredient or other, but there's not going to be much of great variety or use right now.
She's kind of like, that's like, right, I understand. If that's the case, I might be returning another day.
Of course. It's not an inexpensive hobby to keep or career to pursue.
I intend to pursue, just I don't have the best timing right now, I guess.
Well, I'll always be here. If in the future you happen to stop by with heavier pockets and a bit of a goal in mind.
I guess maybe as a thank you. I do it actually. Wouldn't happen to be feeling sick at all right now, would you?
Oh no, I'm fine.
Oh, right.
Middle of the magic you mentioned.
I suppose.
No, I keep myself well, for the most part.
Yes,
I managed to
imagine
avoid
one
any
of your-
illnesses.
I imagine one of your profession even then. Well, I thank you, and I thank you for your time, and I'll be going, and I hope to return.
Well, I thank you for stopping by, and I hope to see you then.
She walks out with a bit of a sigh.
Kid in the candy store who just had to leave without a single sweet. Yep. Anybody else got anything else? It is drawing on towards evening. And so you guys probably should make your way back to whatever inn you might be staying at.
Yeah. Okay. Just reading ahead to the.
Reading ahead to the...
Finishes reading and then head to the inn.
Okay. Alsana, are you going back to the Resting Rook?
I think she will.
Okay.
She's made
So
a good impression.
Alsana did take off ahead of everybody to go to the alchemist's shop, so you guys don't really see her again as you head to the Hammered Haddock. You might assume that she's found another place to stay. She didn't really say anything. With that, the evening comes to a close, night falls. You get another night of rest here in Sorren, and we're going to go ahead and call the session there. for today.
I think we've got a general idea of what's up next.
Yeah. Well, maybe.
We've got one character having a date tomorrow, and then we're probably heading off towards the Green River.
Probably. That's up to you guys.
I think probably that way, yeah. So library and then up to the.
Okay. So, we'll call it there.
All right.
Also, just I'm assuming that the lady from the was it Bell's bubbling brew?
Bell's Bubbling Brew.
I'm assuming that was Bell.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So, not what I expected you guys to do today.
Nope, me neither.
It never is.
Stuff happened.
Alsana has this like very light I want to look at for my brother, but at the same time, oh my god, I am getting so far into setting things up for him, and it's hilarious.
Yeah. I did not plan on the scribe being, like, interested or anything. It just kind of hit me as a possibility, and I went, okay, let's see how they roll with this.
And by that you mean let's throw the meat into the tiger cage.
Yeah, pretty much. Hey, for all I knew, I was throwing lettuce into the tiger cage, and there would have been a brief mauling and then a lack of interest. So, that is the ball is going to be now in Kane's court.
Yep, and
Yes, he is
it's
going
gonna
to
be
be the
interesting.
only one there.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
He's not going to be followed at all. Yow.
So, yeah. How was it?
I liked it a lot.
It's
It
fun.
was fun stuff. Alsana was happy, so I was happy.
Okay, that's good.
And
Bug
Evan,
right.
you are way more of a chaotic neutral than I will ever be. I hope you realize this.
Depends on who I'm playing, man.
You just like to hide it more.
What do you mean?
Your chaotic side.
In what way?
He says you like to hide it more.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what that implies.
You like to come across as not very chaotic, but man.
Sure. Alright, is there anything else we should have in here?
I assumed that was it.
Alright. Alright. Then we are done with the recording. Did John ever come back?
Yeah, he's in here.
Alright. Yeah, I don't have